I go out of body one day after this, and I have a big old mirror in my, little dojo where I'm injecting my soul from my body, and I jump right into it, and I'm thinking I'm going to end up on the other side of the wall outside the house. And I was wrong. And I portaled and went into it and came out the other side, going the other direction, of course, into a perfect reverse image world. Now, I got really unnerved and felt really like spooked. I was like, this is creepy as hell. I'm looking at my body and everything's reversed. Do I go back to the mirror or do I jump into my body now?
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Broadcasting Seeds. I am your host, Bennett Tanton, and today we have Seth Kicklighter.
Hello.
Now, Seth, tell everyone who may not know who you are, what you do, and what's the best place to find you.
Yes, I am a goofy young white man, and I am an author, actually. And my book's name is Spirit Realm Shenanigans, an unhinged rant exposing the psychic fabrications of discarnate dweebs and Nephilim nitwits. And it's a comedy, inappropriately comedy infused, sorry, Lord, book that is basically it's a meaty book filled with an I'll get into the whole details of it, I guess, in a minute, but it's a whole comedy infused breakdown of my theories on astral travel, psychic derived information, channeling, reincarnation, and an explanation of it that basically saying vision control by demons is the whole source of a lot of spiritual experiences we have. But we'll get into details. My Instagram and my X, especially my X, where most of my crazy lore is on, is Sethlehem. Instagram is Sethlehem_. So look for that. It's my name, right? It's Bethlehem with a Seth. And in that bio on my accounts, in the link in the bio, you'll see a link tree. And in that link tree is my book, which is on Amazon, on PayHip. You can buy directly from me, get it signed. You can find my audiobook, which is full and free on Spotify and YouTube, 34 hours. I'm sorry, but it's got funny voices for all the characters I'm making fun of, which are real people who might sue me. And then we have all my favorite content I put on there, my playlist if you want to hear my bangers, and my podcast links are all there. So look for that if you want to find my work. Linktree /Sethlehem. That's where you'll find everything.
Awesome. So with this being said, what was like your gateway to this whole world of high strangeness, whatever, some people it's Bigfoot, some people it's paranormal, some people it's, ghosts. It could be whatever, UFOs, but it's one of those things.
Mine was accidental occult activity. You know how that happens. Gotcha. I did the old accidental out of body experience in between the dream state when I was years back. I want to say 5-6 years ago, not too long, honestly. And I was like, and this was back when I was an agnostic after being raised Christian and having bad church experiences and going, oh, well, it all sucks now. And, very ignorantly so and abrasive. And I ended up thinking, oh, damn, I have a soul. I need to, I need to figure out what this means. And I was always interested in the concepts of that. I just was like, oh, I know it's BS. And because I was a pseudo intellectual science meathead, which is mean I was brainwashed by the system. And I figured out real quick that wasn't the case. And after this out-of-body experience, which wasn't too in-depth, it wasn't like guides taking me on giant trips like the people we're about to discuss soon. But it was enough to where I'm seeing my body and I'm going, oh, dang, that's trippy. And it was fun. And I was like, this is fun. Now I got to look into this. And I read all these astral travel books. I read Robert Monroe's trilogy, which is exactly what we're breaking down today in great detail. And Kurt Leland's Otherwhere, which is the other one we're breaking down. I read all these books. I read all, and a lot more New Age Gnostic channeled stuff, reincarnation evidence, holistic healing stuff, which we can always talk about later. But astral travel is the focus today. And that's what I was doing. I did it maybe 80 times or so. I didn't know it was wrong. My bad. I didn't have a Christian viewpoint. So I did it a bunch. I didn't go to crazy realms, really. I just would float around the real time zone and try to learn how to control my movements. And we can talk about that more later. I have some
Yeah.
funny stories, but I eventually got enough spiritual harassment from demons, what I believe are enough times to go, why is this not helping me at all? This is making me feel worse. And I got pulled out of my body anytime I tried to nap. That was weird. And a bunch of other stuff happened that led me to go, this doesn't feel right. Something's telling me I got to keep searching for answers to what this is. So I eventually, after reading all these New Age Gnostic books, I probably read close to 100 evidence and also channeled information. I just kept finding, it took me a while to realize, but I just kept finding things that are incompatible, which in my second chapter of my book, which we're not covering today, I basically cross-examined 12 different channeled sources of information, most of them voice channeling, some of them like Akashic Records, quote unquote, and Rudolf Steiner type stuff. And I
Yeah.
cross-examined the lore they talk about, and in the overall themes, they align with each other with the whole consciousness, new age reincarnation type information. But in the details, so much divergence that it's incompatible with each other. They're all either lying or one of them's one of them's telling the truth. And I realized there's no way this adds up. So the only thing that explained everything eventually was the Bible and Christianity. And I finally came around to it and started studying deep and reading the whole Bible and reading all these books with the Christian viewpoints. And I eventually was like, oh, this is, this explains everything. It's just a mass deception going on. And today we're going to be breaking down specifically my theories, which are somehow relatively original, at least in some book presentation form. And that is that I'm going to talk about today specifically astral travel, but how that filters into other stuff like remote viewing and NDEs and sleep, dream hijacking, stuff like that, which we're going to talk about a little bit of each, but mostly astral travel. And I'm going to explain my theory that overall astral travel it's just simulation. It's consciousness simulation. It is entity facilitated completely. It is not your subconscious mind tricking you. It is it's not, it's basically a lucid dream controlled by demons or guides as they claim to be, which it doesn't matter who they are. I mean, it does,
Right.
but it doesn't matter ultimately because you look at what they're doing, what their function is, not what their form is. And their function is they're deceiving you constantly and doing mind games and theatrics. It is elaborate theatrics. They're all theater boys. They're all actors. They possess a lot of our world's actors today. So, just think about that.
Yeah.
Um, possession, when people think of possession and like spirit interaction with demons, they think of the Exorcist movies and these like feral monsters, and I'm like,
Right.
that's an act too, and we'll talk about that later. But like, my whole thing is astral travel is a simulation, and if that's a simulation, and they can control. When I say control, I mean control to a godlike degree. I use that word regretfully. Every little detail, including your intuition, the thoughts fed into you very strongly, your perceptions, your lucidity, even the way how lucid you are, all this stuff can be pretty perfectly controlled. I'm not saying you have no room to fight back a little bit, but you've already consented via this occult practice to be deceived in a doing something God told us not to do, divination.
Yep.
And so you've already consented to that. So you can think it's all unfair, but they control everything and they use it as a method of taking people to fake realms, which they then are used to convince you of a cosmology that does not exist and is not real. And if they can do that to enough people, those people become assets. And those assets, such as these authors who sell tons of books, can then filter it into the culture and be another gear in the wheel of evidence, quote unquote, to their whole all-encompassing Gnostic New Age psyop, which is the ultimate Christianity inversion. So this is something people aren't talking about, and whenever you see astral travel can be controlled to this degree, remote viewing is nothing. It's more download information perception based, and a little bit of visuals and other senses. But once you see all these senses in astral travel is controlled, and you have autonomy in this. And in other things, you might not have autonomy, such as past life memories, which I think all of this simulation control also applies to past life memories, secret space program memories, water kingdom memories for the underground lore, which is basically water SSP memories, beyond that. And I think that this is something very important because it affects SRA and MKU victims who are getting fake memories downloaded into them alongside the real stuff, so that when they tell their testimony, they tell the fake memories and people think, oh, it's all BS. And it's a win-win for the demonic agenda. And this is not technology. This is demonic consciousness manipulation ultimately. So we'll get into the details in a minute. Do you have any questions so far? Anything?
No, man, just get after it.
I'm going to go
Let's do it.
crazy. Okay. Before I
Yeah.
get into the evidence, which we'll jump into in a minute, I want to get into my second theory and explain how today's about astral travel and what that means. And we'll use the Bible at the end as a connector to all these things. But also, if we do a part two, what I want to talk about then, which I like to get out early, is I have a gripe with a specific man, and his name is Dan Duval. And these are my
Oh yeah.
opinions. But he is, I believe he is a problematic, huge rising false prophet in the holistic healing field for
Yeah.
Christians.
I've heard you bring him up before.
Well, I did my second part all about him in my other interview. So, if you
Gotcha.
want to see what I'm talking about, there's a lot there.
Yeah, I do because I've seen him a few times on
Taylor Welch's Deep End.
yeah,
Yep.
yes.
He's been on there 5 times.
So yeah.
They love him. So yeah, I have a gripe with him because I'm going to explain it just a little bit here.
Yep.
But he is a Christian, quote unquote, deliverance minister, air quotes. And he is basically not stealing because he doesn't know he's stealing it, but demons are rebranding a holistic healing practice from the new age of Gnosticism that is called spirit releasement therapy. And spirit releasement therapy, short answer is a patient comes into a therapist and they are put into a trance, hypnotic regress type state, and they are told in advance to consent to channeling any potential entities that make themselves known,
Mm.
present themselves. Seance. And in this seance, they find their attachments. These are entities that are already attached to them, apparently. They might have been, they might have not been. But in my opinion, it's demons masking as various types of ghosts, various aliens, all different types of aliens, because we know there's so many out there. But it's not aliens themselves; it's their etheric technological attachments that are connected to them via black energy cord, just like the silver cord is connected to our astral body. It gets really weird. So that's they say it's that, or it'll be your soul fragment, which is a disassociated, alter of yourself. Which I have complicated thoughts on that, but you can channel these things, and then you can also channel demons, but they're a dumber form of them. They call themselves dark force entities, DFEs. They like to identify as a non-biblical type of lower astral entity as opposed to a demon. And they channel these things, and then they talk to them, and they act out these theatrics, and then they eventually convince them to leave or send them to the light. And then they heal themselves of whatever physical, emotional, spiritual ailment, spiritual harassment they were getting. And then it validates what's going on to their healing. Now, the biggest part of this is how it connects to what we're talking about today, which is the vision control. During these holistic healings, these people in their mind's eye are getting remote viewing style third eye visions of everything they're channeling, which is very elaborate, crazy stuff. And it validates the whole thing is more legitimate. Now, without even talking about what we're talking about today, the evidence, I could prove the vision control theory in that second episode alone, but it's more about how the channeled entities, which are all demons masking as all these entities, including yourself, which you need to reintegrate by asking them to reintegrate with you. Weird. That is all theatrics meant to convince you of a cosmology that doesn't exist because they're always sharing cosmological information along the way and building this reincarnation based framework. So Dan Duval is taking that same practice, which whenever I do a side by side comparison of the practices, which I read the manuals so I can, do this, they are the same thing and they cannot coexist. The only way they can coexist and be working, which they are technically working, which not really, we'll get into that, is if they are catering lore to different people that matches their belief system, but also expands it upon itself. Because Dan Duval is doing this Jesus plus stuff that's it's mixing New Age Gnosticism with Christianity and trying to reframe it. He uses terms like ascended masters. He uses terms like galactic federation as all literal. He believes in literal aliens, not demon meat suits. He's very Alberino in that sense. Anyway, so that's. And the healing part is complicated because they're not really being healed. It's the demons that are causing these problems or have control over them are letting go of pressure that they were already giving to you. And this pressure is being laid off temporarily often. And sometimes a long time, if you're an asset, if you're doing work for them, if you're spreading their gospel, they will probably treat you real nice. But if you're not an asset, these people say it comes back worse and harder or other problems. And then they just go back for another session. And then they get addicted to these sessions and keep coming back and forth. And it's similar. It's the same thing as Reiki, but without the channeling. It's the same thing as Edgar Casey's channeled healings over the phone, where he's making it seem like he's a healer, but really it's just demons catering to them and making it, giving them, this reputation based off of choosing when strategically to lay off pressure and lay on pressure to people with these visions accompanying them. So that's important to talk about. That's episode 2 material. And if we did an episode 3, it's a reincarnation debunk where we explain past life memories and all these other sorts of memories, future life memories even, are all demonic visions, which you consent to receiving whenever you do these practices to get them. And we talk about the birthmarks and everything and how it's all explained. So
Right.
that's my little, I had to get that out the way.
Yeah, let me I gotta say a prayer real quick.
Do it,
And
please.
I'm gonna probably edit it out, but either way. Right,
Don't do
because I
that.
feel like because we're talking about this, I, I was in a rush, I didn't pray before,
You
and
messed
I'm
up.
feeling something ain't right.
Well,
That's
take
how
care of
I
it. Take care of
and
it,
my
please.
and the some of my equipment's doing weird shit. So
I don't like it.
Heavenly Father, I come before you in humility and strength, acknowledging that you alone are the source of all truth, light, and authority. In the name of Jesus, I take this time to consecrate this podcast, this message, and this mission to you. Lord, I ask you for your divine protection over every piece of equipment, every signal, every connection, every word spoken. Let no force of darkness interfere with the message you have ordained to be shared. I rebuke every spirit of confusion, delay, technical sabotage, or distraction. Every plan of the enemy, I declare null and void, covered in the blood of Jesus. Holy Spirit, fill this space, guide my words, stir my heart, and open the ears of those who are meant to hear. Let what is shared today be edifying, convicting, and empowering fuel for the weary, truth for the deceived, and fire for the faithful. Dispatch your angels to stand guard around this broadcast and everyone involved. Let nothing hinder the reach or impact of this episode. May your presence flow through the airwaves and into the hearts of listeners everywhere. I declare that no weapon formed against this podcast shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against it in judgment shall be condemned. For this is my heritage as your servant, and my vindication is from you. I thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to speak truth in the time of deception, light in the time of darkness, and hope in the time of despair. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
I feel safer already. Thank you.
Wow, dude, I feel better. No, I'm telling you, man, that freaking prayer for me is legit. Like I got goosebumps.
Oh yeah, I got my
I,
daily ritual, man. Don't worry, I'm all about it.
yeah. So like, if I don't go through, there's just crazy shit happens. Crazy shit,
Yep.
especially when we're talking about stuff like this. Like as soon as you started getting into it, I could feel like that, like, oh, dude. So I was a Reiki master.
No way, you were.
Yeah, dude. So
You said
I,
Beetlejuice 3 times?
nah, yeah. Yeah, on 3 separate occasions. But, but so with that, I understand a lot of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't tap into it anymore. It's different. It's different.
Yeah.
Anyway, so onward.
Very interesting.
You were
Okay.
talking about people get addicted to the process.
A lot, not everybody, but a lot of them,
Yeah.
because their problems don't actually vanish. They're not getting any spiritual protection after they do these practices because they're actually opening themselves more with occult practice. But the praying, the pressure laid off by the demonic side at the right time after the vision's over, where all coincides as a full somatic experience, is then gonna validate it. So if anything comes back, it's like, oh, I must have done something wrong, but it's not ever sin related, which really is what opens you up, which divination is. It's always they always have some weird excuse for why they opened up. Like, and I'm not joking. This is one example. It's one of the sillier examples, yes, but it's in the book, and I have a direct quote. I'm paraphrasing it. But in Shakunta Lamodi's Remarkable Healings, she says, one entity, we'll call him Sean. I forgot his name. One entity connected to Sean because he had a compassion for mentally retarded people. So the ghost of a mentally retarded person connected to him because of his compassion for him, and not because he sinned, but and I find it silly because like, you're still retarded in the afterlife. That's messed up. I thought that would have been like fixed because of
Right.
the.
That's weird.
So it's just silly. That's one of the sillier examples, but that's
Yeah.
exactly what they say. Having compassion for a type of person will allow that type of person to attach to you, not because you sinned and a demon's messing with you and playing mind games. It's
Right.
a little bit silly, but that's
Wild.
one example. Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna jump into it. That's the core little intro stuff. And yeah, so what I'm going to be doing here is I'm reading, I have like 80 pages in my book dedicated towards, and it's probably my most important chapter evidence wise, dedicated towards breaking down the entirety of Robert Monroe. I call him Bob Monroe's entire trilogy. He's the most popular, most famous astral traveler author of
Is
all
that the
time.
Monroe Institute?
Yep, he's the guy who
Yeah.
started it. He started the Monroe Institute, which is Harry Potter psychic wizard school for
Yep.
the New Agers, and they teach you how to do all this really demonic stuff, allegedly. And so he started that, and he's the most influential astral traveler of all time, that we know of. And he wrote a trilogy. I broke down each book with about 20 pages dedicated to each book about, and I dedicated another 20 to Kurt Leland's Otherwhere book, which he is a Monroe Institute contributor, trained there, did the whole wizard school thing, and he's less popular for sure, but his lore in his book is very revealing and aligned, of course, in a lot of ways. And we're just going to go back and forth between these sources, and I'm going to read a lot of excerpts because I'm making giant claims that a lot of people aren't making, so I need to back it up with sources, and that's what I'm going to be doing, and then we'll do analysis on them throughout. But if I don't read the sources, then I'm not going to convince very many people if I just start talking shit here. So we're gonna keep it professional, and we're gonna start with one of the more flat admissions that I think is very 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 directly already kind of proving my theory. Now I'm saying this is all fake, but if you listen to the guides, it's only a simulation on occasion, and it's all the realms are real, but they'll put you in a simulation on occasion just for fun and to educate you. So I'm gonna read from my book, page 127, and this is from Monroe's, I believe, his second book. And keep in mind, this is something he discusses one time in one paragraph in the entirety of 3 books, and he never talks about it again. And then we're going to read Kurt Leland's stuff, which is more in depth on this and how it correlates. So this is where Bob Monroe is. He's talking about his interaction with his guides who've been teaching him for decades. And he's talking about their methods of teaching him. So he says, like, teaching him stuff about the universe and evolving his consciousness. So, raising vibrations, all that stuff. So he says verbatim, a favorite and quick learn forever method of theirs was simulation. It was based on their ability to create and place into a human consciousness, mind, or an earth type situation so real and so overwhelming that I could not tell reality from illusion. I do not know the limits of such technology or talent, nor do I know the extent to which they employ the technique. It may only be in my particular case, but I doubt it. The potentials of its application in other ways begs for broad speculation. In my own pattern, it was usually applied as an instant cleanup of minor emotional patterns that blocked or distorted my clarity of perception or my stability. Usually, I was unaware of such dysfunction. They would note it and offer to take care of the problem. I would be informed that the lesson was about to take place with my consent, yet once in the simulation, it became absolutely and totally real. And I lived it. If I couldn't break through the reality of the simulation, uh, no, sorry. If I didn't come up with the desired action, the simulation would be repeated until I did. Even in the repetition, I couldn't break through the reality of the simulation. Yet once my training sequence was completed, I then knew what it was for. Suppose questions about motives seemed irrelevant, or perhaps I didn't want to endanger the good thing I had going for me. So, he's telling you right there, admitted that guides can and will put you into astral simulations, which they have complete control over, and you'll see the type of control we're talking about very soon here. Um, and he even says this could possibly be used for many things very often, and I don't know the extent of which. And you should probably speculate about it, but I'm not going to do it because I have a good thing going for me, and I don't want to mess it up because I get all this connection to this divine knowledge and these crazy experiences that are fueling me. So he's literally admitting that in the most kind of embarrassing way I've ever seen, and that already proves that this is possible. So people need to know. They'll find out more soon, but this is all possible. What I'm saying, even to New Agers and Gnostics, which I'm trying to convert here. Whether they want to say it's all fake or not, they cannot deny that this deception that I'm claiming is happening on a mass scale is absolutely possible, and they have the ability. He says it's realer than reality, and that is a common trait you're going to hear very often. So I don't know if you want to hit me with any questions or comments, brother.
No, not yet, man. I think I just wanted to reiterate though that that's Robert Monroe talking about
Yes,
that.
that's his second book, Far Journeys, in the middle of the book somewhere. I don't have the page number. I could get it, but we're not going to do that right now. But that's a direct quote. Yes.
Okay.
So This next one is the longest excerpt I'm going to read. It's going to take a minute to get through, but it's worth it. It is Kurt Leland's Otherwhere, and he's talking about the same thing, a formulated reality, a fake simulation, and he knows it is, and he's told it is in advance. But everything else is real, so that's what they're told. So he is transported by his guides for a test into an astral escape room where he's supposed to escape this astral environment, more metaphorically than literally, as you'll find out. It's kind of anticlimactic, but he is sent to a castle in what he describes as like 1600s Renaissance type Italy. And he's in this castle with no door. So it's not a copy and paste of some other place because it would have a door. It's a fabricated place. And he says, um, so he's in this castle room and it's got all this exotic stuff in it. And he says, I looked down at the drawing table where I found a complex perspective study of a cathedral drawn in ink on a piece of parchment. The sketch was in the style of the Renaissance. Could this be a past life, one in which I'd been an artist or architectural draftsman? So for one, he knows it's a simulation. He's told that, he's put in it, and immediately thinks, oh, is this a past life of mine? Even though he has autonomy, which I didn't know you had autonomy and memories, but apparently you can. But that's not what's going on here, of course. So that's just funny that he immediately thinks this. And keep in mind, like I said, his thoughts might be I don't know every thought, but a lot of his thoughts will be filtered directly from them to him. And you will see what I mean in a minute. Now he says, as instructed, I looked for clues. A quick scan showed me that there was no door. Perhaps it was concealed like a trapdoor. After all, I seemed to be a prisoner of sorts. He says after that, I looked down at the drawing table again. The architectural rendering was gone. In its place, I found a piece of typing paper turned sideways, and on that was a child's crayon drawing of a landscape, a bright blue sky with a smiling sun and puffy white clouds, green grass, and a poorly drawn cow grazing by a metal gate. Before I had a chance to ask myself what such a drawing was doing in the Renaissance, however, I found myself inside of it, a real-life figure projected into a cartoon. A wind of colors flew by, and the sun set, and a crescent moon lying on its side rose up. The moon had a big nose and was wearing a nightcap. A music box began to play Beautiful Dreamer, and the moon started to sing along in the voice of Frank Sinatra. A chorus line of five-pointed stars whirled and jigged between verses, occasionally chiming in. The brown cow never moved, however. It remained frozen mid-chew, grass dangling from its mouth, faintly pathetic. The sun and the moon seemed to be attached to a revolving wheel that kept spinning faster and faster. Day alternated with night so rapidly that they blurred together, flickering like a strobe light, and then, just as suddenly as I'd been whisked into the child's drawing, I was outside again, seated at the drawing table. The architectural rendering reappeared. So, this is cartoon-level buffoonery and elaborate control of, breaking, obviously, a lot of, there's no laws of physics here. They can do whatever they want. And it seems to be very expertly done. It's kind of silly, honestly. I think they're just messing with him.
Yeah, right.
Did you have any thoughts here, brother?
No, it's just like, yeah, you're right. You're right. The buffoonery.
It's not meant to be a real realm to him, obviously, so they can go a little crazy with it. With the real realms, it's not as silly. It's still silly, but not nearly as much. But they're kind of flexing their abilities here. Now, while he's there, even after all this crazy stuff is happening, so he's put back into the castle after that, and he again forgets why he's there. Even though he just had this insane immersive experience, he forgets why he's there for a moment, and then he remembers again. And this is where I think they're dialing up and down his lucidity to mess with him, so he fails. They can come in and save the day and be like, "See, you're stupid. You got to figure it out. This is how you do it." So he's brainstorming unproductively for a bit after that, and then he says, after that, the study vanished, and I found myself wandering through a desert with a clarity of logic that startled me. Thought control here. I resolved to seek out the witches and warlocks who must have been responsible for this bizarre change of scenery, forgetting that he's already admittedly put into the simulation. He's forgetting this. So he says, perhaps they could tell me how to escape this reality in which I've been imprisoned. I walked and I walked. The desert remained featureless as it had been when I first arrived. I was lost, but that didn't stop me. I kept on walking anyway. Suddenly, my perspective shifted. I seemed to be seeing myself from far away, looking down on myself as I walked. The desert planet I was walking on was so small that it spun beneath my feet with every step. I was wholly responsible for its rotation. I panicked. I began to feel that I would be trapped in this barren reality, wherever and whatever it was, forever. Without transition, I found myself back in the architect's study. So, he's literally getting the most insane experience here, and forgetting what's going on, and they're dimming his lucidity. And we'll get into why that's important in a minute. And he again is back into this to the study, the castle, and he forgets why he's there again. And then eventually a concealed door opens up magically, and this woman walks in, and it's his guide, in the form of this woman. They can do whatever they want and appears however they want, shapeshifters. And says to him, "Let me ask you something," the instructor said. "Where on earth are you able to walk through a crayon drawing while the sun smiles at you and the moon and stars are singing? Your study contains bits and pieces from every historic period from the last 500 years. We threw in everything but the kitchen sink to get you to realize this was a dream, and we finally had to put that in too. All you had to do was realize the utter impossibility of everything you were perceiving and tell yourself you must be dreaming." So they're telling him the escape routine is just figure out you're in a dream, which is kind of not fair because they said escape and then they're like, oh, it's actually, more metaphorical than that.
Right.
But at the same time, his lucidity kept dimming. And in the astral realms, your lucidity seems to be not that hindered in that same way. Maybe on occasion, I don't know, but they don't seem to have that same problem. So here's the situation with that. I believe they can affect his lucidity all the time, and there's examples of it other places. What I think is going on here is that they're putting him in the simulation and then affecting his lucidity there only to a way that he's going to go, oh, well, I know the rest of this is real because my lucidity is fine. And if they can actually
Right.
control it and dim it at the right time, that's how, because they're revealing a lot of their power here when they give off this simulation ability. They're revealing too much. So the way they're kind of counterbalancing it, in my opinion, strategically is going, oh, well, this is a simulation realm. That's why your mind is affected differently, which doesn't totally make sense if the rest of it doesn't seem to do that. If they're controlling it, especially if they control everything around you and everything going on, how do we know they can't control your thoughts and your lucidity, which they admit to doing in other ways at other times, which you'll see in a minute. So I just find that all very interesting and very strategically well done, I suppose. But another layer to add is why are they putting him through this test? Like, what is the point? Oh, you got to figure out they're basically telling him to get more lucid in this state because whatever in this book, which I don't have the quote right here, but they say the most important thing you can do in your waking life is go into the astral and learn how to be lucid. They say it's more important than anything. Why is that? Because when you die,
Yeah.
you're going to have to traverse this astral realm, which, the reincarnation cycle makes it seem pretty clean cut in some ways, but they make it really elaborate at times. And they say you're going to need to learn how to navigate the realms. And maybe it's for more when you break the reincarnation trap and you can get out and then you can traverse. I think it's more about that. But they say the most important thing you do is gain lucidity so that you can know how to navigate because otherwise you're going to get lost in places and you're going to be confused. Like the amnesic ghosts that other people like to talk about, which is lore they dispel. So it's all very interesting strategically. And so I don't know if you had thoughts, but that was my rant for now.
Yeah. No, you know what I keep thinking of is like because there's a few people that I know have gone to the Monroe Institute, like
Oh yeah.
that I've interviewed.
Hmm.
Um, and I just kind of I think about them when I hear about this stuff. So I'm not like getting into it, but I like, that's interesting. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well,
This is all I hear.
you're gonna hear all types of crazy, goofy stories in the next hour and a half or two, and you're gonna see this is what a lot of them are going through. Now, I think Monroe is more of an asset than most, of course, and he's getting and Leland, and they're getting more experiences, probably more in depth experiences than some other people, and they are all about return on investment and allocating the resources to who it will be
Uh-huh.
worthwhile. So if you're not getting out of body that much and you're also not an asset in any sort of way and you're just doing it for personal fun, you might get out of body sometimes, but they can just choose not to facilitate it if they want, if you're not worth their time. And then you can just put it under, oh, I'm not that good at this. I need to get better. But the more of an asset you become, the more you're spreading the lore, the more you're worth their time because they're limited in number. There's only as much of them as Nephilim died in the flood, and they're trying to have return on investment here. And that gets into the whole DMT lockout thing, which we'll touch on later for sure.
Yep.
But it's because that's going viral a little bit right now. But yeah, so that's the intro. So already with those two admitted excerpts that these top astral travelers that all these New Age agnostics get their cosmology and information from, a lot of them love these guys. They are already admitting that they can be heavily, heavily deceived and controlled if the entity wanted to. Now, are they trustworthy? Let's see. Let's see how their vibe is presented in the further experiences. But
Right.
uh, now we're moving on to Monroe's conversations about rotes, Rote, rote. And a rote he describes as his own word he's attributing towards a download of information. And for anybody who doesn't know what a download is, it's an instant spiritual, metaphysical, hijacking where an entity is giving you a lot of dense, complex, sometimes information that you will instantly be able to understand. Maybe not every little detail, but you will instantly have this inner knowing about all these complex things really quickly, whatever they want it to be. And sometimes the information fades like a dream, the details of it, but the overall impression is usually left with the individual experiencing it. Uh, Many experiences of all different types get this: abductees, sleep paralysis experiences, anybody doing occult stuff. Remote viewing is largely based off of just impressions and inner knowing. And that's potentially totally funneled to you from a entity on the outside. They would not like to agree with that, though, the remote viewers themselves. So, this road's a download. And any entity in the astral can give any entity in the astral these things. Now, the astral travelers don't ever talk about giving it to other people. It's only them receiving it. So that's funny because they don't seem to be able to craft these themselves, as what I've noticed. So, and they're telepathically instantly transported. So sometimes a rote is not just a download, but it's also a simulation which you are immersed in at the drop of a hat instantly. So that's what's happening here. And where the one story I'm just going to paraphrase is where Bob is out in the astral. He meets this alien spirit from another planet that died on another planet, and he's now roaming the astral to find a new home world to incarnate on because he doesn't care for his planet too much. It's very wet now, and you'll find out why. So his name is Z-55/Lou, Lou. That's a dumb fake alien name, and I don't know if that's just the English translated version of it or something,
Yeah,
but
right.
it's pretty lazy to me, and I don't like it. So this Lou character is talking to Monroe, and he's basically trying to tell him how he died. But instead of telling him, he's like, "Here, just take this, and you'll know." And it's a rote, and this rote, without him agreeing to it, just instantly transfers him to this simulation, but he would not count it as a simulation. But what happens is he is on this alien planet that this spirit just came from, and it's similar to Earth. It's got buildings and people, and they're humanoid, but it's not Earth, and they're not humans, but they're pretty close. But it's weird and different. So he's walking around with autonomy. So he's not reliving a past life memory of this entity, which could happen, but he has autonomy and he's moving around. We don't know if he's in his body or some fake alien body or this guy's body, but either way, he has autonomy. And so it's got to be a simulation. Doesn't make any sense otherwise. And he's walking around having awkward interactions, passing, citizens of this city he's in, having some, being accosted by these military types who are asking for identification at one point. And all this, stuff he's going through is pointless because what happens after that is a giant tsunami comes and it kills everybody there. And and they're all killed, and he has this traumatic death memory, which he experiences in a very realistic way of being drowned. And he describes it as such. And then he is back in his regular astral form with the character. And he's like, "Oh, dang." He's like, "That was crazy." And he's like, "Yeah, that's how I died." I'm like, "You can't just say you got killed in your tsunami. You got a trauma bond with me and give me a fake
Right,
death,"
right.
which
What
is,
the fuck?
a simulation, admittedly so. So they don't call it that, but it's a download, but it's a download of what? An autonomous, fake little thing that I went through.
Yeah.
It's not a real memory of, it could have been a real memory of somebody else, but it doesn't make sense because he's having autonomy. So that would mean he'd have to change the past of that individual's life, which they get into some time travel stuff metaphysically, but that was a physical death. So it's just, it doesn't quite add up unless it's a admitted simulation, which is more of the same. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
That's right. All right.
Man.
So I don't. Yeah. If you have any thoughts, go for it.
No, nope. I'm good, man. I yeah, it just makes me think, bro.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
all.
hey, it's gonna get even
I'm
sillier.
writing I have like I'm a note taker, so
Oh, I love it.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna give you plenty to work with here, man. We got okay. So staying on the same vein of rotes. I'm not gonna explain the whole story because it's convoluted and absolutely all over the place, but
Right.
I will give it a quick synopsis and explain what's going on here. So I call this one Roteception, and this is, Inception, dream within a dream within a dream. Here's going to be rotes. And what happens is Bob is meets a friend who becomes a very important character, which is the one who gives him this whole Gnostic download of information later, of the cosmos or of Earth's origin story, and it's a whole, disinformation from the spirit, uh, in a rote form. It's like a astral brochure he gets literally, and this entity BB, he names it BB, not his real name probably, but it's a stupid name, and I hate using it, but we're gonna have to do it. So BB meets him in the astral. BB is coming from an astral tour on a literal tour bus, sort of, in an astral form from another planet. He's from an alien planet, and he's like a goofy teenager vibe. Like he's very like corny, very corny the way he talks, and their dialogue and their exchanges are. It just doesn't feel real. And it's BB is coming with his friend AA on an astral tour bus with a literal tour guide, spelling out what's they're on. They're going to Earth as one of the many stops, and it's the last stop of their tour. And AA is more happy and upbeat. It's like, that place looks fun. I want to go on a ride. Like talking about it like it's a roller coaster ride. Earth reincarnating on Earth, and BB is like annoyed and like wants to go home already. And he's like, nah, this sucks. I want to go home. Don't go there. And then he's like, nah, I'm going to do it. Just wait for me. And there's no time in the astral. So living a whole life, they can just come right back and there's barely any time passed. So AA goes and incarnates on Earth, lives a whole life, comes out and is talking. And look, when I'm telling the story, keep in mind, I forgot to say, Bob had got this rope from BB explaining this story. So now Bob is living BB's memories without autonomy and getting a download, reliving the memory fully, of this experience. And in this memory, he is BB experiencing everything he did as a memory. So BB's friend comes out of Earth at this like airport like station where the incarnations happened without even a crazy life plan like everybody else gets, just a quick little in and out roller coaster ride. And this character comes out and is like, here, you want to see what I did? And gives BB a rote of their life's memories. And then Bob is now going to relive some of those memories through BB, through this rote, Russian doll inside of itself. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to get into about it mostly for the story, but it's trying to tell you like, oh, consciousness is infinite and we can just keep, accessing any memory of anything because it's all the Akashic records. It's all connected. We're all connected. It's basically saying you could infinitely do this rote inside of a rote thing probably if you wanted to, but that's not what's going on here. He's not going one inside of the other. He's just switching. And because they are controlling the entire scenario and his intuition simultaneously, he's not going to question that for a second. It's just switching instantly, and their abilities to do that seamlessly and go to another place instantly that's already set up and ready to go is mastered, controlled, godlike, to the sense that you should not doubt their control abilities. I don't like to use that word, but that's what I need people to understand.
I got you though. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty crazy stuff. I'm moving on to Kurt Leland's section where he talks about what I call immersive astral propaganda. So, you can't even escape the propaganda from the material realm. You got to find it in the astral too, which is what this all is essentially. So his quote says, the facilitators, which is another word for a guide. There's all sorts of different entities. He calls different names: overseers, guides, facilitators. There's more, but at one point he later says, by the way, all these entities I'm naming might all be one kind of entity, just, calling themselves different things. I don't know.
Right.
So he says that, which is exactly what's happening. So he says the facilitators fulfill a variety of functions in the after death zone, which is where you go when you die, depending on the station to which they've been assigned. Thus, they may be broken down into subgroups identified by specific tasks they perform. One night, my guide arranged for me to watch a documentary that provided an overview of these tasks. I was brought to an area of non-physical reality that I perceived as a conference room large enough to seat a dozen people at several small round tables. At first, I seemed to be merely watching it. Moments later, I was actually inside of it, personally witnessing the things described while a voice explained what I was seeing. So, instantly transferred from watching on a screen, an astral screen, a documentary. Now he's inside of it, and now there's an invisible entity narrating it to him, explaining the process your soul goes through after death. And they go on like 20 pages of a rant, which I'm not going to read because it's too convoluted. If you want to go back to it later, let me know, because it is absolutely, it's nightmare fuel. It is like kind of scary what they're describing. They're describing it nicely, but it sounds creepy as hell. And they're describing what your soul goes through to get through the healing process in a more literal term, because when people go to healing centers and healing realms, like their hospitals in the astral, which they describe, they describe it very physical and similar to real places, but later they'll say things like, "Oh, that's just your perception of it. That's what you understand." If an alien spirit goes there from a different planet with a different system, they'll perceive it differently, but have the same interactions, same things, and that's what accounts for all the discrepancies in astral lore because it's not solidified like one thing. It's your perception. You're building the world around what you perceive, but the situations, the entities, everything is literal and it's real, but your visualization is your own. But
Yeah.
they so that's why they're different across examples. Now it's important to note that because they describe the unfiltered version of that, what it looks like, and it doesn't even make sense how it could be compatible with the other people's examples. They don't even it doesn't make sense how they can correlate. But we can go into that later if you want. It's just
Yeah, it was just the thing that's striking to me is how like all the different gateways that they've used to get you here. You know what I mean?
lucid dreaming is a big one.
Yeah. Like but there's so many more. I
Drugs,
mean,
yeah,
just
yeah, all these things.
but like the drugs and then even just like the little gateways like talking about NDEs and
Yeah.
then like here's what's happening. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there's just little peeks behind the screens, right? Like it, and to me, it's like it's this promise of higher knowledge. Basically, it's the same old Genesis 3
Yeah.
pitch, right?
That's the ultimate story, you know?
Right, with better lighting and a cosmic soundtrack,
Right.
though, right? You know? So anyway,
Absolutely. No,
keep
yeah,
going.
I mean, there's influences everywhere guiding to these
Yeah,
things. And then, you have the Hollywood media system, sexualizing psychic abilities and powers
yeah,
and
right.
programming people to want to be Harry Potter school attendees and Marvel heroes. And that's the most promoted media ever. And it's also the most sloppy garbage I've ever seen in my life. And it's corny and not
There's
realistic.
this one girl that's on, and I wasn't gonna bring it up, but I'm gonna.
Do it.
Her name is shit. Her name is Megan, but what is she?
Like an
What is
actor or who
her?
are you talking about?
No, Megan. She's like here. I gotta look.
Do it.
Solar Glow Meditations. Have you ever heard of this girl?
Not specifically her, but I mean, I know a lot about meditation and what that's about, so I
She
did it,
does
you know?
YouTube videos. She does a ton of YouTube videos.
Mm.
And she's the dowsing rods girl.
Oh, wait, I've seen a couple of those, but yeah,
But
those are
this
fun.
girl, like, she's kind of got it down.
Uh-huh.
And
She's tapped in.
she also went to the Monroe Institute.
Oh, I'm
So
sure.
I know that just because I've followed her, and it's like she just seems like such a I'm gonna say it like a vessel. Like they just
Well,
use it.
the
Yep,
more
but
the
you
the
know
more
what I
psychic
mean?
ability you have, the more success you have, the more remote viewing you do, whatever it may
Oh
be,
yeah. Yeah. No, and she
the more you're
progressively gets
consenting to
better.
merging. Oh,
She
yeah,
progressively gets better at it
because
too.
she's
So
merging
it's
deeper, and it takes time to merge.
oh man,
You don't just get
you
fully
should watch
possessed
her.
instantly.
It's the evolution is actually quite shocking. But anyway,
It's strategic on behalf of the entities merging with her. They don't start you out as a 10 out of 10 master at these things. One,
yep.
because
No,
it takes time to merge, and two, because
she does rod sessions with so many different entities and
oh yeah, there's all different sorts.
ascended masters and angels,
What a
archangels.
lucky woman.
Oh yeah, Merlin and Uriel and Jesus and all the things,
The
man.
Galactic
It's wild.
Federation councils, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably, maybe tons of ascended masters. So
But there's so many
yeah.
out there, and they're just trying to help.
Okay, sorry, I
Poor
didn't
girl.
mean to
No, you're good,
divert,
man.
but yeah,
No, it's all good. So yeah, we're seeing how like the control is pretty deep, and you're only going to see more examples of this. But it's all to deceive and to convince you of certain things. And we'll get into more of the examples of like uh bad press campaigns for God and stuff like that later, because they absolutely use these scenarios to build these storylines. And here's the thing you need to understand: they're doing this. Why? You're like, why are they doing all this effort? For one, it's building a cosmology in a way that you experience it. You're no longer just being told it by higher spirits. You're now experiencing it yourself. So it validates it to a deeper way, and it gets people interested in merging with demons, is what's really going on. And you share that information, and people want to get excited, and they'll go do it themselves. So it's spreading, like wildfire. But you got to keep in mind there's something to be said about experiencing it yourself for propaganda. it is way more elaborate and convincing than any other type. So that's why the whole spiritual experience thing is dangerous and deceptive, or it can be often. And any divination you do, you're not going to be contacting anything higher. That's at least what the Bible told me, and I buy it after all my research. So we're going to move on to some quotes from Monroe's book, which I think are very revealing to the lack of control you have here. So one is Monroe saying one of the greatest enigmas in this whole affair. This is early in his days of doing this. Is that someone or more than one has been helping me from time to time in such experimentation, his out of body travel. And he says, perhaps they are with me every time and I'm just not aware of them. I do not know who these helpers are or why they are helping me. They certainly do not seem to be guarding the angels. Their assistance seems to be more of their choosing and deliberation than mine. They are rarely friendly in the sense that we understand the term. The feeling of gentle but firm hands on each side of me was very strong. The same hands turning me around to leave, much as one steers a blind person, could not have been more vivid. So he's saying, even in the astral, when you think you're alone, you might not be, which you never are, because it's all facilitated by entities. But we'll get into more of that. And he says he was literally being steered like a blind person by being pushed around. When I did my out of body stuff, I would feel that too, and I would think, "Oh, I'm just bad at controlling myself." But I did feel like hands on me, and it was hard to describe, but it felt like I was being pushed around. But also I thought maybe I'm just not connected to my astral body mentally that well, and I have to focus harder, because they say you have to train and focus. And sometimes I'll be falling through the earth, seeing only dirt around me like a ghost. I'm falling through the earth, and I'll just see like rocks and dirt around me, and I can see it, and I see like stuff lit up, like I'll see like wires, what look like ley lines of magnetic anomalies, or it's my perception of that, but I'll see that underground, and I'll just be falling underground hundreds of feet, and I'll see my house above, and I'll still see it, and it's like see-through. And it's a simulation, but I'll see it, and I'll like have a hard time flying upward and getting back up because I have to mentally focus. Now, when I focus really hard, I can do it. But if I'm like distracted or, foggy or something, I'll just keep falling, and I'll get kind of spooked, but nothing bad will really happen. But it's very realistic feeling. But I won't see the rest of the world see through. I'll just see my house.
Yeah.
It's weird. Not all the time, but it
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
it generates when you are trying to do something. And the generation sometimes happens right in front of your face in a way
Hmm.
that's like, am I really floating around the real world? Why is it generating like a simulation? And really they're just building a version of it along the way. It's really crazy. So yeah, we got more quotes here. I call this Supermind Take the Wheel. And it says, Monroe saying, your destination seems to be grounded completely within the framework of your innermost constant motivations, emotions, and desires. You may not consciously want to go there, but you have no choice. Your supermind or your soul is stronger and usually makes the decision for you. Telling you the locations you're going often, if not always, are totally, completely chosen by your supermind, which is your higher self, which he talks to more later. And this higher self already knows what you need to learn, knows what you need to do. So just trust him and go with it, is what it's saying. It's not a demon. It's part of you, and he knows what's best. And that's your innermost motivations and desires. So you can't ignore that, even though you may not consciously be aware of this. What does that sound like to you?
Yeah.
It's very deceptive. Do you have any thoughts so far, though?
No. I mean,
Heck yeah.
I have plenty,
Okay,
but
good. Well,
you know what?
whenever you got a good one, you let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we got a few more. So these next 4 short quotes are from Monroe's, I believe, first book. And he's basically describing what he's learned after his Monroe Institute trainees have had enough studies and out-of-body travels themselves, to where this is like stuff he's learned from not just his own experiences, but from collecting. And he says, they, as in the entities, he's encountering, guides, whatever they are, they can change the temperature of that visited human body. So they can mess with your body's temperature and channel through you. He says, notice how easily any potential anxieties or fears are overcome by simply a pattern of radiation emanating from strangers. So they're making you feel all warm and gooey and feel love and feel nice. Now, angels in the Bible, what do we notice whenever they show up? What do they always tell people? People are usually responding kind of scared or freaked out,
Yeah.
and it's a shocking thing for them to visualize, I'm sure, and an encounter that's probably emanating energy and it's powerful, and they get freaked out, and you're like, but they're not scary. They're just, they're scared in the moment, and they always say, "Do not be afraid," or calm the hell down.
Yeah.
It's fine. They don't jack into your chemical composition and mess with your serotonin and make you feel all warm and gooey inside, and because that is manipulation. Even though that's a kind of a on the surface good thing to do because it calms you down. Why would they want to manipulate you whenever they can just explain to you why it's not a big deal? The manipulation aspect of these entities is they always can and will make you feel all good inside and feel really positive. And that's part of the control of your mind that they have whenever you're in these experiences. They can make you feel scared and freaked out too, which they time for theatrical moments where it's necessary. So I just think it's important to put that out there because people think, oh, I felt so good during this NDE. I felt so good in this encounter with this entity, so it must be positive. That's actually manipulation more than anything.
Yeah.
And then we got the entire history of humankind and Earth is available to them in the most minute detail if needed. Another thing to note, in my second chapter where I do this cross-examination of all these channeled sources, of all these various entities, a lot of them ascended masters self-proclaimed, they will give you specific history of Atlantis, of our origins of creation, of alien encounters in the past with humans, all these things. And they'll align thematically generally to a reincarnation framework, yes, a New Age framework, but they diverge on details so much that it is absolutely incompatible. So if they all have the correct history, why are they not matching details and compatible with each other? Very often, either all of them are lying or one of them is telling the truth, but they're all channeling through random strangers who are just occult divination. They're nothing special. It's just whoever has the means of doing so and believes it. So it's pretty interesting how they do that. Now, and then people would go, okay, well, why don't they have one source they keep to if they're all demons on the same side? Why are they diverging stories instead of just, why would they strategically make it incompatible? Well, for one, they've been successful doing it this method, first of all. They've been very successful, so you can't say they haven't been. Second, why didn't they, this is where I return that with, why didn't they create one counter religion to Christianity? If Christianity is the way, why didn't they make one counter religion? And they kind of have ultimately, but they in the
Right.
details they've diverged it so much because it's mudding the waters. It's making you think that there's all these different belief systems from all these different encounters, and Christianity is one in a giant barrel of different religions. So it's not that special. So one, it waters it down and makes it seem less important in that sense, which no one else has a Messiah story or anything similar to the lore of the Bible, by the way. But a lot of people don't read the Bible. A lot of people don't know what it teaches. But it muddies the waters, and it also, they don't care what your theology is as long as it's not true biblical Christianity. And they even have non-reincarnation teachings that they teach to other people that are still different from heaven and hell. They'll have like spirits ascend and then keep going to other realms, but sometimes demons will create lore that's anti-reincarnation. But because they know people will gravitate towards what makes sense to them. And we'll talk about what I just said in the second part more because it's a lot of lore there and interesting. But it's just important to note that they are strategically intelligent the way that they're mudding the waters with all these different belief systems that thematically align. It's just they don't expect most people to cross-reference sources like this and care enough to put in that effort because they know people don't care that much. They'll read one or two channel books and go, yeah, that's good enough for me. And they won't pay attention to the details and cross-examine and dissect. I'm one of the only freaks out there doing that, and those people aren't going to hear of me. So it's smarter for them to muddy the waters because if they create one counter religion to Christianity, guess what? It's going to be very obvious what that is. It's a satanic deception. It's going to be way more traceable. But if you diversify the experiences that people have in entity encounters and all the sorts of different things, it's strategically smart because people won't put them all together in one barrel that quickly, except Christians who are aware of these things.
I mean, just think about this. Like, how many places on the planet the Bible itself is outlawed? Like,
Yeah,
it's against the law.
I don't see that for anything else, really.
I mean, a lot. And even going back to biblical times, there's a reason that these things, we keep finding these scrolls and the Dead Sea Scrolls and all these different writings,
Time
right?
capsules of potential
Right,
disinformation.
because they were freaking hiding them. Anyway, I'm just saying.
Some are legit and some are planted with the legit ones to be
probably plants, right?
Yeah,
So,
well, the Gnostic Gospels, I would say, are absolute plants. They're not done by people. That's entity facilitated, in my opinion. Just like these channel books, which when you read my second chapter, you'll see all these different channel books from the modern era, which I show correlations to ancient texts, the Enuma Elish and the other Gnostic Gospels out there, telling of different creation stories or flood stories, Sumerian tablet type stuff. So there's total correlations with channel board today and that stuff that show patterns that are undeniable. And I think that they've been doing this whole channel disinformation stuff since the beginning of their existence after the flood, but it's just rebranded and repackaged for modern audiences, as they tend to do, so that it kind of diversifies again. And because if you trace it to one source, you'll quickly find out the demonic deception going on here. So they have to diversify.
Yeah.
So that's a tangent I went on. And the last one here is Monroe says not only can they utilize the vocal cords and breathing apparatus, channeling, but they have total access to the memory storage lodged in the individual. So admitting these guides, these ascended spirits, have complete access to our memory, all of them, to perfect detail. Now, I'm going to explain why that's important. Obviously, it is in just a minute, but we're going to read one more excerpt from Monroe, and he's talking about when he went into his own personal memory bank, his own Akashic records to his own life. So he can now access every memory of his life. And he says, like in detail, all the details, all the experience. And he can relive it like it's a past life memory. He can relive it full experience, like a simulation. And he says, where is it? I immediately encountered the expected, a layer or file, library or mainframe containing every moment of my life to date, with more pouring in that matched exactly my thoughts and actions as I conducted the investigation. This was far more than memory as we consciously think of it. Upon selection of any given point in the past, I relived at the event in every detail, down to each minute sensory input, thought, and emotion. I soon realized that supermemory was not altogether pleasurable. With such intense hindsight, one becomes all too painfully and sadly aware of many irrational decisions made, the stupid mistakes, the missed opportunities. Yeah, so admitting these entities, whoever they are, positive or negative, they have total memory access, and they're facilitating his memory access to himself. He thinks it's his own, astral body doing this, but this is all facilitated externally, of course, which is very obvious because they're never not there. They're always there. So that's a
Right.
little strange. You're never alone. And we'll get into more of that. But this
Hmm.
is what now I like to talk about a little side tangent, which is what are the implications of this on the demonic agenda in general? Because I consider them a hive mind, the demons that are individual demons, yes, but they are a hive mind connected to this ultimate Borg, etheric AI, essentially, where they have perfect memory, they have perfect access to your memories. Everybody has memories on the planet. Holy Spirit people might be protected to some degree. I don't know, but you open yourselves up, I think, at times, or you're always open. I don't know, but at least to memory access, and which also equals influence in certain ways with your thoughts. Now, if they have actual full data, think about data collection with your phones and AI and how it can use that to know things about you. Now,
Yeah.
think about if that data was connected to all your thoughts and memories and actions, and also everybody else's on the planets. If you had that data access and a hive mind, analysis brain that could process a lot of information, which they obviously do, you could build a lot of fake prophecies and then download information and precognitive type dreams into people, or give mediums knowledge that is precognitive to the person seeing a psychic medium. And they can give you a lot of prophecies that may seem legitimate or may come to pass. And a lot of them don't, but you only focus on the hits. And if you have data analysis to such deep degrees, like keep in mind 9/11, you know how many people claim to predict 9/11 through psychic means or through dreams? So many
Yeah.
people. Now, do you think demons knew about 9/11 in advance? Probably. They probably had a hand in it.
There's
If
some
I had to
sort of
guess.
something they could put together, right? Yeah.
Yeah, people says it was Israel, and I don't doubt that their government was involved, but who's guiding them ultimately? Is it spiritual powers and
Yeah.
principalities and fallen angels? I like to think so. I like to think they guide every secret society in their own little area, and they all cater to them, whether they
Yeah.
know it or not. So if that's happening, think about what prophecies you could give, and then if you give a medium, let's say a medium you go to a medium and you they tell you, oh, you're going to get a promotion at your jobs and you're going to get successful and you're going to get a raise, and you go, oh shoot, that's awesome. One, your belief and desire acts as consent to a degree for entities to then involve themselves more in your and other people's lives to make sure these things come to pass. That is a thing that happens. They can influence thoughts more because you've allowed it with your belief. That is the whole manifestation thing in a biblical terminology.
Yeah.
It's rebranded, and that's the real version of it. And then also, not only is your belief adding to it and consent adding to it, but also, what was I saying? I get brain farts every once in a while where I totally forget what I was saying. Hold on, give me a second. dude, this keeps happening every once in a while. I get this like
I'm
total like,
telling you, man.
if I flow, it'll come back to me. So yeah, if they get this, if you consent to it with your belief, that adds to it. But also, that they already have data. They might have already seen your work, your coworkers, and then they see, oh, they're about to be promoting somebody because somebody left their job or is about to leave, and they know this is going to happen. And they can read the thoughts and minds, and they know they're considering you already. So they
Yeah.
know that you're probably going to get this, and you just aren't aware yet. They give you this prophecy, and then, but it's really just data collection, and this can account for all demonic prophecies from pagan sources. It, in my opinion, maybe people will disagree, but I like to focus on that because if they're admitting they have total memory access to you, you can't really deny it if these sources are saying it because they're building experiences based around that, and I just
Yeah.
find that very important to know.
I used to have mad dreams, man. Like
Oh, I'm sure.
what, like semi-prophetic. Like I wouldn't be like, not like, the world, but prophetic in my life, right?
Yeah,
And
like
once
things
I
would come to
shut
pass that you dreamed about, right?
right, but once I shut all this down, within the last few years, and that's what my book is all about. Once I shut this all down, those dreams have essentially ceased.
Oh, really? Yeah, that doesn't shock
Isn't
me at
that
all.
wild?
I
So
got I
in
got people to
turn,
talk to about that.
yeah, no, I'm just saying that literally it's like there was the access is now denied.
Just
You
like,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
just like Reiki
And
masters
I
when they
don't get
get exorcisms.
I just I don't have the influence anymore. It's gone.
Well,
Which is a wonderful
for the
thing.
best.
Yes,
'Cause
absolutely.
they want you to believe in it, and then they want, which gives them consent, and then they want
Yes.
you to be more invested, because that's a gateway to drug to lucid dreams, and that's a big gateway
Yeah.
drug to,
Yep.
astral travel, so
Oh man, like I was there, like to a point where I'm like, oh man, maybe this lucid dreaming thing's kind of cool. Like
I
it
thought it
was,
was. I did the whole dream journal thing, and I
yeah,
tried to do it. It worked for a bit, and then, you know what they say in these books? Often these astral travelers will say, "If you know how, you can easily shift from a lucid dream to an astral travel in a real realm." And what does that tell you about the nature of it, first of all?
yeah,
Because we know lucid dreams are simulations. Are they all entities facilitated? I lean on it. I don't say for sure, but
right.
there's reasons I believe that. But it's definitely partially the case, yes. But if you
Mhm.
could transfer from one to the other, I think there's some guy there waiting for you, yes, at the very least.
Right.
So, yeah, that's very interesting, though. I don't doubt that at all. So now we're gonna read the 3 types of shadow worlds in Leland's work. Now, I'll have
Okay.
some quite a bit of analysis afterwards, but, let's see if we can get this out there. So, he says, they, as in, dead people, because he's visiting the after death zone, he calls it, and he's an astral traveler, which can visit, but most of these souls there are dead souls. And he says they're waiting for a bus, an astral bus, to the alternate was worlds where they'll experience what things would have been like had they made other choices at major turning points in their lives on Earth. The other 2 lines are a benefit to the living rather than the dead, referring to astral travelers visiting. The alternate is worlds may be visited by people who want to see what the present would be like if they had made different decisions at some point in the past, and the alternate will be worlds give them the chance to see what consequences might develop from a decision currently under consideration. The alternate was system is the only one of the 3 shadow worlds that currently gets much use these days. People have forgotten that they can travel to the shadow world to help themselves make decisions about how to lead their lives. So he's saying there's these astral realms which are essentially basically simulations which are showing you an akashic records of things that could have maybe happened if you did this. Kind of giving it you solidly, not saying this maybe would happen, but saying if you did this, your life would have gone this direction, which is a potential non-existent akashic records, which is kind of a little bit simulation sounding. I don't know. And it's
Yeah.
now a few things to note here is this is Leland's book. I have not seen this, and I've researched. I've not seen this talked about in any other astral traveler's work. I don't know how that makes sense because it should be probably mentioned by these people because it seems like a big deal. Now, it sounds like a perfect realm to program people into making certain life decisions. Oh, I want to know what I'll be like if I go become a medium, or I want to know what I'll become like if I get into this field of work or marry this person. And then they can go there. And then if an entity wants them to do this or not do something, they'll set up a scenario, a fake scenario to say, oh, you'll be very successful. You should do this. You should become a medium. You should become a psychic asset for the demonic agenda. Or if they don't want you to do something, then they will just build a scenario that goes, oh, this will work out badly for you. Don't do that. And then he says he basically goes there a lot to make major life decisions, which is basically going to get programmed and told what to do. And it's a great opportunity for them to do this, to build up a simulation to guide you in your life. That's the most direct guidance I've ever seen. And it's very intrusive. I don't know how that's part of your reincarnation plan. I didn't know you were
Right.
supposed to do that,
Right.
because that's all part of
Yeah.
this. So, another thing to note is this is also his guides tell him that these worlds are the guides tell him that our asylums of our world are today filled with people who astrally traveled to these realms so much that they went crazy because they said they couldn't figure out what past, present, and future was anymore because they went to these realms too much. Now that's silly because they come back to their body and they're in their regular life and they're like, I don't know what year I'm in. I don't know what's going like they lose their mind. And they said the reason they lost their mind is not because the realms are bad, but because they didn't go with proper guidance. They went by themselves. I didn't know. Now you can't go by yourselves anywhere in the astral because it's all facilitated by entities, but they want you to believe that they are not always there, and they want you to believe that it's smart to always have them there. So when you find out they're always there, you're not upset because they're actually helping you. So they want you to
Right.
be programmed into thinking that guides, you need your guides because this is dangerous out here. It's risky, and there's some dangerous fake theatrics they put them through later, which we'll get into. But
Hmm.
that's also a perfect cover up for all the schizophrenics getting spiritually harassed by demons. You can say, no, they're not getting spiritually harassed by demons. Schizophrenia is because they astral traveled wrong. Now, if these thousands and thousands of people, which they're implying, are in these astral
You
realms
did it
doing
wrong.
this, why didn't any of these other astral travelers go to this place and talk about it? If all these many people have gone there effortlessly, I find that just statistically doesn't make add up to me, right?
Yeah. Right.
So it's I just I'm glad I fit that all in there. That's a lot of lore there.
You
Um,
didn't do it right.
Yeah, no, exactly. So they're, programming you to be okay with their constant presence, which is definitely always going to be the case. And I'm going to flip to the end of this chapter where I have a few other astral travelers slid in there, that aren't covered in full length. But one of them's Robert Bruce, a different Robert, and he wrote Astral Dynamics, and it's a very long, very manual type book of how to get out of body and what everything you'll experience is. And he has a lot of revealing weird things in there. And one of them is where he's talking about entering paintings while in the astral, any painting. And he says, the projector then moves into the target rather than passing through it. This seems to trick the subconscious mind into creating a virtual astral realm, not an entity, but your subconscious, around the projected double, identical to that shown in the picture or mirror being approached. When you project, go towards the poster, keeping your mind blank. Don't think about what you're doing. Just gaze into it and move towards it. As you
Hmm.
approach it in this way, your subconscious mind will be tricked into creating an astral realm exactly like the poster. Just move up and into the poster. It's like stepping into another world. Everything in this world will be exactly like the poster. It will appear to be a normal three-dimensional world, an exact copy, indistinguishable from reality. To customize this world, cut and paste small pictures of things or people you want to find in this world when you enter it. If you cut out a small picture of someone living or dead, your subconscious will create a thought formed shell of them, and they will be there waiting for you. This may be an excellent way of communicating with those who have died, or maybe banging some hot models. If I was going to do that, that's exactly what he's implying here. Now,
Right.
so this is crazy bananas to me. He's saying paste little pictures of a dead person on your painting, go into it, and you'll find that person there. It might be a thought shell form of your own subconscious building of them, but it might be a great way to contact the actual person who is then summoned. Now that's retarded, and I think it's stupid, and I don't like it. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, but
Simulation, though, it's admitted simulation, but it's your
yeah,
subconscious
right.
building it. It's not them. It's
Yeah.
saying you'll trick your subconscious. That doesn't make any sense. Now, another thing he talks about, which is similar, is he talks about mirror portals, going into a mirror. And I'll tell my thing in a minute, but he says avoid windows and mirrors during real time projections, as well as any other highly reflective surfaces, even still water that is reflecting the sky. Passing through a reflection can shift you out of real time and into a mirror image world, into an anomaly. This is, in principle, very much like how virtual reality projection works. Once inside an anomaly, it can be difficult to return to the true real-time zone without returning to your physical body. Use walls, ceilings, and doors wherever possible to maintain the real-time aspect of your projection. Even looking into a mirror or reflection is a potential hindrance to the integrity of a real-time projection. It is very easy to unintentionally slip into a reflection without noticing the shift out of real time into an anomalous copy of it. Now, when I first read that, I thought he's full of shit, and I was like, this guy sucks. He's lying now. He's just making stuff up. So I was like, I'll try it just to, to make him look like a douche. And then I go out of body one day after this, and I have a big old mirror in my, little dojo where I'm injecting my soul from my body apparently. And I jump right into it, and I'm thinking I'm going to end up on the other side of the wall outside the house. And I was wrong. And I portaled and went into it and came out the other side, going the other direction, of course, into a perfect reverse image world. Now, I got really unnerved and felt really like spooked. I was like, this is creepy as hell. I'm looking at my body and everything's reversed, and I'm like, wait a minute, do I go back to the mirror or do I jump into my body now? And will I be
Right.
stuck in a reverse image alternate world where now I'm right-handed and gay and I'm crippled and I'm cheating on my girlfriend at the time with a slightly different woman who I was now these are the jokes that were going through my head at the time, but I was genuinely
Right.
unnerved. And I'm thinking, and I wasn't scared. It's demons hijacking into me, making me feel scared, by the way, because I'm a man and I don't get scared. But I definitely was like thinking these thoughts, and I jump back to the mirror and go into my body, and I'm like, oh, that was a close one, guys. We almost got stuck in mirror world.
Mirror world.
And
Oh
it
my
was, which
God.
is, I guess, wouldn't be the worst thing to ever happen, but it'd be weird. And I'm like, is this the same reality? And they're just expanding the cosmology to be like, yeah, there's all sorts of different potholes you can get stuck in the infinite consciousness realm, but
Right.
it doesn't make any sense. And I think I feel like I went through a mirror before that and nothing happened. But after I read about it and knew about it and expected it, that
Almost
they
like
were
that.
like, oh, let's create this thing now.
Yeah. That seed was planted.
Exactly, and if it wasn't, who knows if that would have happened, but I just find that interesting to note. So I don't hear other people talk about these things. I've never I don't I they might have, but I've not seen in Leland
Yeah.
or Monroe's book any mention of those 2 things, which seem like a great thing to mention, by the way. I've never heard them
Yeah.
mention it. It's just more revealing of the simulation capabilities, for sure. So we got this is we got a real goofy one now. So this is I use a lot of curse words in my book sometimes, and I'm not going to use them now, but I'll say I call this section "I turned you into mother effing grass, and you ate that S word up." That's what I call this section, and yeah. So Leland is told by his guides in advance. They're like, "Hey, we got one test for you tonight. We're gonna come visit you in your dreams, dude." And he's like, "All right, bet, let's do it." So they come and visit him in his dreams, and he says, um, in a vivid dream, I became a single blade of grass. A strong wind blows me this way and that. I feel exhilarated. All at once, I became aware that I'm surrounded by millions of other grass blades. I make a startling realization. I can simultaneously maintain an awareness of myself as a single grade as a single grass blade and as a multitude of grass blades, yet my unique beingness has a precise location within the vast tapestry of grass that surrounds me. Very good, the overseer says. You learn quickly. We've designed a set of images and sensations in order to illustrate certain aspects of the human condition, he says. Our intention is to show you how the evolution of human consciousness looks from our perspective. So, couple things here. One, normalization of the Borg, the hive mind. They're describing it perfectly. I know myself as a unique entity, but I can feel myself simultaneously connected to the vast tapestry. That is the demon's experience of lives. That is how they live, is what I believe, based on the data. And they're also normalizing that, making you think it's okay and chill and not weird. And
Right.
they're also saying how evolution of consciousness looks from our perspective. So they're saying they're promoting the ancient reincarnation viewpoint of, oh, we start out as like rocks and grass, and then we move up to insects, and then birds and dolphins and elephants, and then humans. They're building that old Eastern ancient reincarnation framework, but in a linear sense. But whenever you get to other reincarnation lore, the more new age modern stuff, they break that and they make it more fluctuating to where you can reincarnate in the past and the future, and there's no time, and it's not linear.
Right.
And they also say you can split your consciousness and be 2 people at once, which Monroe has that story, which we'll get into later. They're like I said, the details diverge from each other from the ancient teachings because they have to ramp it up and get crazier and more out there in the modern stuff to account for all the crazy things happening. But it's just, again, they can make you feel like a blade of grass. He says he can feel nutrients going through his body, his grass body, in a different section. He says he can feel it. He feels great. He feels happy. That's the type of simulation we're talking about. You could be a freaking grass blade. Now it's not done because I'm going to summarize it, but he says after he's a grass blade, they turn him into a flower and then a bee. Hive mind, go into he literally flies around like a bee into a hive and feels all these sensations like it's a real deal. And we know that these demons can possess, swine in the Bible. Went to the pigs. They can probably possess other animals and know how to create a simulation that is grafted around that experience. That's pretty close to the real thing, if not extremely. So he feels like he's a bee and he's flying around. And then he's put into a raspberry, a bit of a downgrade after that. And then he's put into a human gardener who's dealing with all these things he just was in one area. That's the level of control and instant switching between simulations that we're talking about. It's very elaborate. And Monroe, in his book, he describes a similar thing where he's taken to the year 3000 in the future, metaphysically in the astral, and very different from other remote viewers, year 3000, by the way, which we'll maybe get into later. But he describes his friends he's meeting for fun. They possess all sorts of different sentient life. That's like for fun. They all share
Yeah.
bodies. They share bodies, and so it's normalized. They possess what does he possess? I make notes. A leaf, and then a panther, and then a bird, and they're living out these short little lives as these entities, and it feels real. They're flapping their wings, they're flying around like a bird, and it feels real, and he feels great, and he's happy. And they're normalizing the whole possession thing, hardcore. And yeah, I just find that crazy because they're doing that routine on multiple people to be like, oh look, we're all connected,
Right.
we're all one, we can share bodies, it's cool.
Mm.
Kind of sketchy, kind of
Very
weird.
sketchy.
Do you have any thoughts or comments or questions?
No, dude, this is just so.
It's a mind trip. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's all just deception, dude. That's
Yeah.
it. It's all. Again, it comes down to, and you kind of brought it up at the beginning. It comes down to consent and deception.
Yeah. Well, if we just did what God told us and read the Bible and we
Right.
we didn't do this,
Uh,
we would have nothing to worry about. But we really hit Babylon 2.0 at an accelerated rate here. And ever since the spiritualist movement of the 1800s, this stuff has ramped up the occult practices, the witchcraft
Yeah.
in the common day, everyday user. It used to be more occult and for the secret societies and for the powerful, and now it's trickled out more so into the masses, especially since the internet age. And now it's all very normalized and promoted
It's
in
just
Hollywood.
like the way, it just seems like it's just the way that they can turn people away. And
Yep.
and you can find, because I was looking, you can find folks that you see their progression getting
Yeah.
deeper and deeper into this, and it's just wild.
I was one of those fools for a minute, so I can't talk too much shit. I definitely but I came around and I'm totally shitting on the whole operation now, so or at least try to.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no.
So
Crazy.
I read all those books, I did all this occult stuff
Mm.
for years, and I was like, God, how can I get my time back and not feel like I wasted it completely? And he told me, he said, well, he didn't tell me those words, I'm not going to claim that, but he guided me incredibly intuitively for a long time to write this book and to do the podcasting thing and get the word out. And I would have wrote it 6 months sooner if I had not. I just assumed somebody already wrote a book about this stuff. I had no idea nobody's done this yet. From this exact perspective, filtering into all psychic abilities. I am shocked that this goofy young man is the first to bring this exact topic into the narrative. I'm sure I'm not the first to figure it out, but no one else has written a book.
Right.
No one else has written a book about it, which is totally shocking to me. So got to flex it. But so whenever I found that out, I was like, oh well, frick, I have to do this now. I was like, fine, I'll do it. So fun little story there. But so thanks God for the boost. And yeah, so now we're gonna get some more simulation stuff. And this is where Monroe in his second or third book talks about his focus levels. And his focus levels is his terminology for different brainwaves or not different brainwave states, but different realms accessible by deeper trances. So he has like focus, let me see. He has 10, 12, 15, 21, 22, 23, 24, 27, 28, skips to some, but they're all different. And I'm not going to describe each one, but I'm going to describe focus 27, which is literally a place you can go in between incarnations or just in the astral if you're a visitor. But in between incarnations, you can go here as like a vacation home. And it's where you're in Mormon heaven. You can create whatever you want and you have your own lucid dream world, admitted simulation, but you can create whatever you want, have whatever you want, hedonistic central, um, and you can control the way it's built. Like you can, and it has structure to it that stays there. You don't have to keep focusing on a log cabin. You can build it once and it's there. But
Yeah.
now I'm going to read a quote he says and he says all his Monroe Institute people go here and they have their own. And he says, each individual is invited to create his own personal and special place within Focus 27, a place to which he may return at will. The forms that these places take are as varied and unique as the participants themselves, ranging from log cabins by quiet streams to clumps of trees, South Sea islands, palaces of crystal in corners of one's heart. I like to note the palaces of crystal things is funny because when people get a lot of alien past life memories on other planets, they're always seeing palaces of crystal and giant crystal buildings and
Oh,
infrastructure like the Nordic type
it's
society.
Superman too.
Yeah, there you go. That's true. It's kind of corny. They're like, they're like, oh, you want to look advanced and super spiritually cool?
Yeah.
Make it out of crystal.
Or they're in the movie Frozen with Elsa singing and
Oh my
dancing.
gosh, there you go again.
Talk about
Good
a
reference.
crystal palace, even though it's
That's
ice.
right.
Hey, same
Yeah,
thing.
and it's the same vibe. But yeah, so he's saying you can go here anytime you want and you can create it and it has like a consistency to it. You don't have to keep recreating it. Almost like an entity facilitated it maybe.
Hmm.
And he also says that he's talking about guides there and how they're always there. And he says the guidance that may be requested according to our participants in many different forms, it may appear externally or sensed internally. It may be constant through all the experiences or it may change from time to time. Reports include mention of a glowing white shape, an individual called Sam, a hooded figure who revealed himself as a famous film star, a little dog, the color blue, a human hand, and voices saying, "We are here." Some participants do not see guidance as separate from themselves in any way. Guidance and I are one, as one report says. So, telling you, even in your own personal dream world that you control, there's always an entity present with you, and they're a guide, and they're guiding you, and they appear themselves in cartoonish ways because this is your little cartoon world. It's different from the real realms where they present themselves consistently as like a glowing white orb or something of that nature. Usually, it's like a glowing light, light being. Often, sometimes they're different, but he's saying they'll appear themselves in this way, or they'll sense internally, which means they'll be in your head, giving you thoughts telepathically. Not
Right.
not part of you merging with you, but externally just sending you information. It's a little sketchy and it shows their overt nature and their constant presence, which is important to note. Let's see. So, and there's funny stories about him visiting his friend Charlie who died in his Focus 27. And Charlie's not wanting to reincarnate just yet. He wants to have fun and he's banging his thought form wife, which is this made up lady in his head who he's just banging it out with. And I do a whole page on a commercial in this realm that is really silly. So if you want to read the jokes in the book, you got to buy the book or get the audiobook on the internet. So let's see. Do you have any thoughts, brother?
No, I'm good.
All right, you're
It's just
killing it.
entertaining.
Yeah, no, it's a fun time, right? Yeah, so now we're gonna get some creepy one where Bob is in the astral and he's talking to his godhead, his thousand other hymns from other carnations that are combined into a hive mind currently outside of time. And they're visiting him and they're asking him for help. They're saying, "You're the guy, you're the one. You're the final piece we need." They literally say that you're the last one we need to do this thing. And,
Fucking freaking
before I
Neo.
yeah, no, exactly. And before I continue, I'll say that it's funny because they even tell him that he has a split consciousness with some other woman on planet Earth at the same time as him, incarnated while he's alive, splitting his soul. So she has half. And she is the backup plan. They're going to go to her for backup, but they're like, but we want you to do it. They're like, we like you the best, which is really funny because they tell him that. Which why do you need a backup soul person if
Right.
you are outside of time and know what's going to happen anyway? And it's just all it doesn't make sense. So they're telling him we need you to find us a new place to incarnate on, a new universe, a new dimension, a new infinite realm somewhere else, because it's so expansive, obviously. And he's like, and they're asking him to astral travel around all the place and find it. And he's like getting a little nervous. He's like, "This is a lot of pressure on my feeble astral shoulders. I don't love the sound of this." He's like, "I want to do a good job and help, but I don't know what to do." And which why can't they do it if they're astrally infinite and can access any time period?
Right.
I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. But they need him to do it. So they are trying to calm him down, and they're like, "No, no, no, it's fine." It's like, "Well, we'll cheer you up." You know how they're going to cheer him up? They say, "We can help you with that. We can show you a sample of the support you have in here in our own cluster. Do you wish to see this?" He says, "Please, dot, dot, dot." And then he describes this kind of loosely, and I don't want to say poetically, but like, just like a experience. He's describing it kind of loosely. And he says, "Thousands of hands reaching out to touch me, eyes staring at me with joy and hope, overwhelming radiance I know is love, sweeping over me into every part of my being. All of these I am, we are, an emotion from the bittersweet smell of success to the pain of parting mixed with fun and laughter, the anger of ignorance, the blindness of belief without foundation, the beauty, the sound of singing voices." And then his Godhead says, "Does that help you?" He goes, "It does. Is there more?" He's like getting a little psychic vision of all his 1,000 hymns, all squished together and going, "Hey, we love you. You're doing great. Keep going." Just staring at him
Right.
and like
Yeah.
saying, like fans at a concert, and they're his fans. And it's like, he's like getting all this support and feel good emotion that they're jacking into. And he's like, "Oh, I feel better now. I can do this." Weirdly manipulative, and
Hmm.
another example of a vision, and they're making it sound like it's a real thing at their real place, but like, what is up with this hive mind? Are they just all just bundled together? Are they separate consciousnesses that can infinitely explore the universe by themselves? Why are they trapped in this incarnate, like this hive mind? And why is it why are they going outside of time to find this Bob, to find a new home world for them? It doesn't make sense. It's just
Right.
silly.
Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah.
So
Well,
there's a lot of, yeah, that's just a creepy one. I know they have nothing better to do than to deceive this man, but it's a little creepy way to go about it, in my opinion.
yeah, for sure. I just don't. It's like, where's the end to the means with this?
Well, they're building a narrative for him throughout the entirety of these 3 books, and in book 2, the narrative they build to him in a very elaborate way is giving him this Gnostic astral brochure from an alien, and in that brochure, which is a download he downloads into him, it's the history of Earth created by God Yahweh. They don't call him Yahweh, but it's insinuating Yahweh, and, they say not that he's the highest God, but he's the God of this realm, and they do the whole demiurge thing where they basically say he created plants, and then it wasn't, like, enough, or no, he created, like, uh, plants, and they weren't like enough energy harvesting for him. So then he creates animals, and they were more energy harvested from them, but not enough. And we're talking about Lush here, and which is his word for it, the energy they harvest.
Right.
And then he created humans, and then their anguish ultimately fed God the best. He liked that energy resource the best, is the anguish of humans. Um, and they want you to believe that demons and archons, whatever they are harvesting our Lush, energy harvesting us. That's the dark reality, the prison planet, that they're taking our energy and harvesting it for God, in themselves. And it's to distract you from the actual goal, which is turning your soul away from Jesus, turning your soul away from God, going the other path. They want you to think, oh, they're, because you're going to find out they exist, but they want you to believe they're archons trying to get your energy. That's why they're making you suffer. Not because there's a deeper spiritual endpoint to this, but because it's just for energy harvesting. That's it. It's more secular, it's more, neutral in the overarching narrative. That's why the Gnostic Lush harvesting thing is so dangerous, I think, because
Well, again, it's the Matrix again.
yeah, no, absolutely. And
We're just batteries, man.
yeah, no, yes, exactly. That's the Matrix covers it very well, and very directly. But that was a brochure given to Bob in the Astral. He downloads this and goes, "Oh my God, this is so sad. I hate this." And he gets like depressed about it. But they gave it to him, and they made him think he figured it out by himself, by coming
Right.
across it naturally in the Astral, even though he was force fed this information by an alien in a thing. But it's different from other people's Gnostic origin stories. It's access from the Akashic records. It's similar, but it's different, and it's like they can't get
Yeah,
the
right.
story straight. So it's
But it all rhymes.
yeah, enough to where people literally make excuses and go, "Yeah, well, they're saying the same thing, basically." And I'm like, "Then why do the details diverge if the Akashic records is a perfect memory?" Yeah,
Right. Exactly.
it's
Right.
they go, "Oh, well, their interpretation was off." Okay, fine. Mental gymnastics your way out of it, but it's silly. Um,
Yeah.
but that's a fun one. And then this one is even more blasphemous here and a little silly. And this is where Bob, soon after that last experience, is in the astral, floating around, looking around, and he is alone, he thinks. And then all of a sudden, he's frozen in place. His whole body cannot move at all. Entity controlling it, obviously, um, like a sleep paralysis thing, but in the
Mhm.
astral, and he's awake, and he can't move. And then an entity internally presents itself and says, "I am the Lord thy God, whom you serve." And he said, "Thy," so you know it's him because that's the KJV right there. That's Yahweh. It's got to be.
Right. Right.
And then Bob describes it a lot like the last one, kind of loosely and all over the place. And he says, "A feeling of intense pressure as if I'm dissolving. Now I'm in water. My lungs are full of water. I must have air. Get rid of the water. No, it can't be. It isn't so. There is no water. I have no lungs. I am being made to think that is where I am. It's an influence. I know it's not so. The pressure releases. I can feel fingers of energy probing the core of me. I can stop this. Close the receptors. Close tight. I remember how." God says, "You do not remember. You do not remember." He's like yelling at him. Kind of pathetic. He says, "But I do. I remember the tests. They were so real. I'm ready for this demanding energy. It cannot harm me. But what's this? What God can this be? It cannot harm or affect me. Do not accept me as your God. The idea of a God that threatens amuses me. I let this idea flow out. Do not fear me. I release a picture of me blowing apart again and again into a million fragments and reconstituting after every explosion. You are damned. You are no more than wasted energy of me. Who is your Lord?" The energy fades to a tiny point and vanishes. Okay, so yeah, this badass Bob just defeated God by exploding a mental fart into him astrally. Somehow that just made him vanish. And you know, God of the realm, if not entire universe, is looking like a real loser right now compared to Bob, who's batting 1,000.
Well,
Uh,
he's the chosen one, man.
He's the chosen one. He's Neo. It's a bad press campaign for God. Very disinformation tactic here, but it's kind of silly how ridiculous it gets. And he has him in a astro headlock, got him frozen in place, can impress a complex, violent vision upon him of drowning. And he's like, "You can't control me." And all he had to do was figure out and gain his lucidity, remember, and figure out he's being controlled, and then dispel it by just his understanding of this, which is why they're all about the lucidity thing, because they can dumb you down for a moment like he just was and make him believe this is real because it's so immersive and so real. And they can control your lucidity. So then they jack it back up, and he goes, "Wait a minute, I figured it out." But really, the whole time it could just be them feeding it to him at the same time. Or if he did figure it out, they wanted him to. It's the desired goal. They want him to defeat God and make him look like a B word. And I think it's a weak attempt, but it worked because Bob is not chosen for his, critical thinking abilities
Right.
that we've seen. And
Jeez.
then staying on the same theme of bad press campaigns for God, this is something I didn't talk about in my NDS episode, which was fun, but this one is a really crazy, crazy, crazy excerpt here, which is on the longer side, but it's worth it. So I call this temporary mass lobotomization. All hail the king. Fun title. And Bob says, this is in book one, I believe. He says, at times in visiting Lockout 2, which is what he calls the astral realm in general, in visiting Locale 2, a very unusual event periodically occurs. It makes no difference where in Locale 2 the event is the same. In the midst of normal activity, there's a distant signal, almost like heraldic trumpets. Everyone takes the signal calmly, and with it, everyone stops speaking or doing whatever he or she may be doing. Uh, wait, whatever he or she is doing, it is a signal that he or they is coming through his kingdom. There is no awestruck prostration or falling down on one's knees. Rather, the attitude is most matter of fact. It is an occurrence to which all are accustomed, and to comply takes absolute precedence over everything. There are no exceptions at the there are no exceptions. At the signal, each living thing lies down. My impression is on their backs, bodies arched to expose the abdomen, not the genitals, with head turned to one side so that it does not see him as he passes by. The purpose seems to be to form a living road onto which he can travel. I have gleaned the idea that occasionally he will select someone from this living bridge, and that person is never seen or heard from again. The purpose of the abdominal exposure is an expression of faith and complete submissiveness, the abdomen being the most vulnerable part of the body, the area that can suffer the most damage the most easily. There is no movement, not even a thought, as he passes by. And the several times I've experienced this, I lay down with with the others. At the time, the thought of doing otherwise was inconceivable. As he passes by, there is a roaring musical sound and a feeling of radiant, irresistible living force of ultimate power that peaks overhead and fades in the distance. After his passing, everyone gets up and resumes their activities. There is no comment or mention of the incident, no further thought of it. There is complete acceptance of the event as a normal part of their lives. Is this God, or God's son, or his representative? So,
Hmm.
we're talking about living bridge passing of some sort of higher entity, which is not a demon, but it's God. It's his kingdom. And they don't say Yahweh, but it's insinuating it's the demiurge, it's God, it's that guy. Or it's his son or a representative. And this is the way he treats his subservience. A living bridge, which is comedically silly. Even if you were that kind of bastard,
Yeah.
what's the deal here? That's to be constantly. It's going to slow your trip down for sure. Why is he not metaphysically traveling if he's a god? He's on a little like horse and buggy on this living bridge. It's just a
Like,
flex. It's silly. Now another thing is nobody in all of astral lore and all my internet research can I find. I used an AI. I put the story in AI. I said, "Can you find this story anywhere? Anything like this?" Not one. But Bob's had it insinuated at least half a dozen times. It says many times, half a dozen at least. He's experienced this exact thing. How has nobody else, no other astral traveler mentioned this? And obviously they all dislike God the same way as he does. Why would they not share that? I think if they catered it to Bob because he's stupider and believes a lot more, and they cater to what they think you'll believe. And maybe other people would have believed it, but they just decided to use it for Bob and nobody else. And I find that statistically problematic. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. So I do have a question. Is there
Hit me.
ever a safe way to explore these things? You know what I mean?
Okay, great question. No.
Like, or is
I'll-
the door itself the problem? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the desire for divination in general, the consent to do it, the act of doing it, it's power, it's divine knowledge you want. It's what does that remind you of in Genesis? You know, it's the whole pursuit of it. And we're allowed to pursue it. It doesn't mean it's going to be true. We may disagree with that assessment, but now there are Christians who, or so-called Christians, who have done interviews I've seen where they claim to be astral intercessors chosen by God. If you want to see one, members episode on the Confessionals 848 with Jade. Nice man, good man in ways, I'm sure, but he's deceived. He got chosen by God apparently when he was 8 years old to become an astral traveler and intercess. And he sees dogmen and cryptids in this realm doing what demons are said to do. So he sees demons as these dogmen, but really that's just a physical representation to more solidify the whole cryptid stuff, which is, I'm sure, true to a degree and maybe some genetic experiments, but it's also, you know, holographic manifestations possibly and all these things. And they're making it seem like demons look like these dogmen and building this world and that he's chosen by God. And the way he described being chosen by God, when you listen to it, you could easily see how it's a demon, masking as God in the way that it's going about. There's no way you can really guarantee it. And the fruits of it are he's astral traveling and said, no, I know it's bad, but it's not bad because he chose me to do this. We need to fight for the side of good in the astral. And he says that because there's so much negative evil in the astral, we have to counterbalance it with this astral intercession. Now, if this is all simulation, like I'm claiming, and it's all in it, then they're just catering the simulation to a Christianized version of it, giving him his own version, the second heaven, they call it. And Dan Duvall also claims to do the same thing. He says, no, I don't do. There's a quote of him on the confessional saying his second or third appearance, I think third, where he's talking about the trafficking cartel of the souls. He says, like 2 hours in, no, astral travel's bad. We don't do none of that. We don't do the occult stuff, the divination. But he starts stuttering and he's like, but I do maneuver the second heaven in Christ. I'm almost saying that verbatim. He does say that. And I caught that recently and I'm making a clip of it, a little short clip. But he says he maneuvers the second heaven through Christ, which is saying, oh, I travel the astral, but as I call it the second heaven, so it's the Christian version, but I do it in Christ. And that's astral travel. I don't care what you call it. Nowhere in the Bible does it say, no, it's okay for some people to do it. My point is they're catering Jesus encounters, fake Jesus, and fake Christianized versions of this to Christians so they can still do it. And that's what we'll talk about in part 2 more, where we discuss the Christianized version of the healing methods, which are supposed to be biblical, but really they're expanding it to get people in divination. they might not be able to stop their souls from being saved if they're already saved, because I believe once you are saved for eternity. But they can stop you from saving others and steer people away and get you into divination and these awful practices. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's dangerous. So no, I don't
Hmm.
believe there's a right way to do it. If God takes you out of body for an experience, which is rare, and he's done it in the Bible, it's rare. He's taking you to further his kingdom for a purpose. He's not doing it for just give you a fun time and to teach you things that you don't need to know. Everything he does is for a purpose. And if it doesn't have a huge purpose, he ain't going to do it. So it's rare, but I believe it happens. It happened in the Bible times. Does it happen today? I don't know. I'm not a sensation.
Right.
I'm not a
Maybe. Right.
cessationist, but I also believe it's rare and few and far between, and the fruits is how we judge it. And if these people are getting other people into the practice, that is not what God wants. And I think that there's a lot of false God impersonations happening to deceive people in this way. So no.
Yeah. So let me ask you,
Yeah.
because I think are you I mean, I'm sure you have a ton more, right? But I mean, what about this episode? How much more do you have to really?
Like material wise, I could get, if I went through everything, minimum, it would take, let's see, probably I can do in 20 minutes, 25, but I could shorten it to like 15.
Well, the only reason I'm asking is so I see auras.
Oh, you're a seer. Okay. So besides auras, do you see entities or attachments or anything like that?
No, but I can, I I would say I'm sensitive to it.
Okay.
I
Now,
don't see them.
were you always like that, or did that door open?
No, that happened when
cult times?
I actually drowned.
Oh, real? Oh, an NDE.
No, but I didn't have an NDE. Not that I can remember.
Yeah, well, a lot of
Like
people will
I
die
didn't
and
go
not have
walk
one.
with somebody.
Not
You know
everybody
what I'm
has
saying?
one.
But you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I didn't go walk with anybody. I didn't have conversations with anybody. I didn't any of that. But after that, that's when I could see auras. Now, at
Interesting. Is it
first, I had
just
no
auras?
idea what was going on.
Is it just auras, though?
That's it.
And do you have like an intuitive knowing about people just by looking at them, kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay,
A
so
little bit.
that
A
usually
little
goes
bit.
along with it. Okay.
Yeah. Usually. I
Interesting.
mean, but it's all based on what there's colors, and then there's like, I don't, there's like, it's like wave fluctuations,
Interesting.
I guess is the way to describe it.
Interesting. Okay.
That like people, some people be like what I would call sparky, and some people are smooth. There's different things to the aura that it's like a manipulation, but it's by like their field or something.
Is this
Does that make
something
sense?
constant, or is it fluctuating in its presence? Like,
I mean, I can't, like, if I'm looking at you, I can't look at a TV and do it. It's in person.
yeah.
Only in person. I have to take glasses off if I have glasses on, right?
Oh, really?
Things like that.
Yeah.
It's only like with my bare eye.
Interesting.
That's it.
Interesting. Well, I don't know if you're insinuating to ask me if I think it's all demonic there, but just in case for any listeners, I have complicated thoughts about the whole seer thing. I do believe God has seers and people who have that ability, which isn't necessarily demonically powered. Um, I lean away from the innate ability thing, unless you have like Nephilim DNA kind of thing. That might be there. But I think all psychic ability is boosted and powered by entities. But seeing is not necessarily divination. Now it can be if you're seeing because you did a Kundalini awakening via occult practices. That's merging with an
Yeah.
entity who's
No,
giving you
I've
this
never
power.
done any of that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, interesting. So, yeah, I do think that people have that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's what you do with it, and you can get more power and more abilities if you pursue them. But that's not going to be
Yeah,
good.
I have no desire, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things like, I mean, I did get into the Reiki stuff,
Well, that's pretty.
but it helped me with Reiki
See,
because
that's
I could see, but this is the deal. I could see where like people's energy or their like where things are stuck with
yeah.
them. And I could like free it up.
Well, that's what they want you to think.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does.
But it was never, and this is the thing. Yeah, I did Reiki, but it was never, I didn't have to I didn't have to perform Reiki. I never had to use the symbols. I never had
Oh,
to
really?
do
Most
the
people
ceremony.
do, and they have to call an entity 3 times. And
I didn't have to do any of that.
interesting. Well,
It was very innate to
now
me.
that stuff is all for show, in my opinion. I don't
Oh
think it.
yeah, but
I think
you know, I
it's
mean,
the
there's
concept of
so
it.
many things that they put you through. It's like what
Yeah.
I never had to do any of that.
Well, I'm sure you're not the only
I
one.
kind of fudged my way through it
Edgar
because I knew
Casey's
it.
the same way. He would heal people over the phone just by talking to them, but really, in my opinion, he was just an asset
Yeah, I
for
can't
these
say I've ever
entities.
done that.
Yeah, well, he would diagnose them, and because he gets a download of knowing, and he's merged with
Mhm.
entities who he channels in the past, and he would heal people via phone calls or in person, and they would be cured. But it's the same thing as what I'm going to talk about part two, which I was mentioning earlier, the spirit releasement therapy thing. It's just a less theatrical version where they're laying off pressure to aid one of their assets and make it seem like he has power. And I'm not saying that's exactly what was happening with you, but it seems like it. I think that's what happens with Reiki in general. I think you call in this entity force, and you're supposed, for most people, and you're supposed to uh do the symbols, and it's a way of consenting. It's a way of consenting.
Correct.
But if you already
Correct.
given consent and you've already opened that door, then you might not need it, but they want you to think it's part of the ritual because it I think it just adds this layer of legitimacy to it. And if you don't need to do the ritual, then it makes it seem like, oh, is this legit, or what do we really understand about this? But I do find that
I,
interesting.
I mean, I'll be honest. It's more of a. I don't ever touch anybody, but it's more of a laying of hands kind of thing. Because I don't pull. I don't. There's a distinct difference in what I pull when I pray. I am pulling in my mind. I'm pulling energy or whatever from the Father, from the Holy Spirit, from Jesus. Like
Yeah.
that's what's in my mind. That's also the verbatim that's coming out of my mouth, right? Or into my mind is I'm thinking about Jesus and the Holy Spirit filling me.
Yeah.
And then these things are happening.
During your Reiki time?
Yeah.
So,
So
that's
it's it's
I
different.
listen,
Like I say Reiki
yeah.
because it's that's the name that's kind of been given
Well,
to
that's
it
the new
across
age
the years.
version. Because if you're doing it in a
Right.
Christian lens,
But
it's
I'm
not.
doing it through a I'm
Okay,
not
well, that's a little different. Now, here's the thing, I do believe healings happen through the Holy Spirit, and they will have miracle healings, and people talk about
yes.
their limbs growing from to a normal size and stuff, and people have many witnesses to these things in churches and, like, at churches and, like, in front of congregations
Yeah,
and outside
right.
of that. I've heard plenty of stories. I don't know if they're all true, but I've heard plenty of crazy ones enough to know that it happens, and I don't think demons are the only ones healing people miraculously. I know God does and uses people for it. Now, when you called it Reiki, I'm assuming the new age practice of it, so I was like, well,
Well,
that
of course, yeah,
yeah.
but I don't know what else to call it. I mean, it
Yeah, yeah. Well, be careful. Yeah, but, make sure you, clarify to people, especially if you're talking to Christians, because when I hear
well, no,
that
and I
yeah.
do. So it's more like it's more but see,
So
it's
that
kind
could
of
be
been
legitimate, absolutely, if you're doing it through
it's
that
all been
lens, but
corrupted and to an
yeah.
extent, and so it's all like I try to explain it to people as like spiritual healing. It's not. It's not. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I feel you, man. Well, that's interesting. And that's an area of study I wanna do more, but I've been so freaking busy since the book came out,
Same.
trying to just
I'm the
trying
same
to just
way,
keep
and
up.
it's me I'm talking about, and it's like I'd really like to dig into the stuff more for
Yeah,
my peace of mind because I've totally stopped doing it
yeah.
because I'm like I'm not saying like but it was like an intimidation from the Christian community. Like, well, shit, am I doing demonic shit here?
Well, you know how to test
But I'm
that?
telling you, it's not. I'm telling you from
Yeah.
my heart, it's not. I I I don't know if that's, you know,
Well, I'm not getting a nefarious vibe, of course, from you, but, the deception layers are pretty elaborate with these
they
things.
are
Now
agreed. But
now
if I hadn't done a ton of other work, I would agree with you. Um, and I do agree with you. I'm saying what I'm saying is that I wouldn't even think that my gift, ability, whatever you want to call it, is anything other than good.
yeah.
Um, if I hadn't done all the other shit
I feel
that
like
I've gone through. You know what I
well,
mean?
next time you ever jump into it, this is what you do. You do a big old prayer and you say, "Lord, if this is not from you, take it away from me."
Oh,
And
I have.
okay, oh, okay. Well, then that's a good.
Yeah. So it's and that's how, to me, I'm like, but I've talked to other people about this stuff too, and they're just like, oh, but obviously more closed-minded. But I've asked these questions of him, and um it's never been taken away. So
Well,
so
if you've done that, then I'm gonna say power to you right now because
yeah, so it's definitely weird.
yeah, I mean as
I mean,
long
it's not like I can walk up and heal crippled people. It's not how it works.
they have to desire it and want it and believe
Right,
and yeah.
but I can definitely help people.
Yeah, well, that's
So
then I would do it till it blows up in your face because it's I mean, as long as you're doing it in the name of the Lord and
yeah.
you're asking Him to take away any deception, I you're covering your bases.
And I can tell you, it's not like what was that movie with Roddy Piper with the glasses? Or if he took the
wait,
glasses off.
you're talking about they it's it's like a simple name. It's like
Yeah.
they're here or something like that.
Yeah, like air here, whatever the hell it is, where he can see the alien, right?
Yeah, yeah, with the glasses. Yeah.
So there has been multiple times where I can see by somebody's aura that they're either oppressed or possessed.
No, really.
For sure.
That'll
They
come in
have
handy.
a or their aura is what I would call just awful. And there's some people, some famous people like that have auras that are straight up like motor oil.
No, I don't doubt it at all.
That's awful. Yeah. So it's bizarre.
I pray I
But
never get famous.
no.
Locally in small pockets of freaks on the internet, sure, but nah, they don't
Yeah,
need to
man.
know too much of that.
For sure.
Do we have did you wanna cut it in,
No,
like,
go ahead,
30
man. We've
No,
got
no, no,
time
I
still.
meant, like, after, like, 25 or 30 or so, or, like
Yeah.
or
No, we have time.
okay, cool, 'cause I can get this out of the way pretty quick.
Sure.
So we're gonna do a couple more
I
astral
just wanted to
pieces.
ask your opinion
Yeah, no,
on me, my self-serving
I don't
opinion.
think you're possessed by demons. I promise you. I would never. I'd be honest with you, brother.
Right.
So we're gonna jump to Leland's memory theft in the astral hot tub section, where
Wow.
he's at a healing center. He's at an astral realm where ghosts go when they die to heal, various methods, and he says a shade, which is his term for like a dead person, a ghost. A shade was seated by the side of the plunge. She was unaware of my presence, yet I had no trouble reading her thoughts. She was about to go back into the memories of a particular time in her life. Apparently, the function of the spa region was to give shades an opportunity to heal themselves by remembering difficult events and figured out why they occurred.
What
Somehow,
the heck?
somehow I accompanied the woman into her memories, which both of us experienced as if they were happening right now for the first time. So, he's experiencing her memories like they're his own, knows it's not because he just went into that experience, um, and is reliving it, every little detail experience. Uh, and she didn't even initiate it. She doesn't see him. She's not pulling him in. He's not desiring to do this. He's just pushed into it like it's part of the script, showing his lack of control. Now, also, this filters into the past life memory stuff, which is more part two, part three type material, where basically it is often admitted that entities can and will give you their memories, which are not simulations, they're real memories, but they'll give you their memories from a dead ghost or something. Uh, and you'll relive it thinking it's your own in a past life regression. So you have to get rid of entity attachments before you do past life regression because you'll get their memories sometimes. And they even admit that. So if they're not really ghosts and they're impressing visions demonically upon you, then that means they're fully fabricated and can do that, and that's their operation.
Hmm.
And we get that's more part three, part two type information, but this is in the astral realm that's happening as well. So it's all connected and it's all simulations, one from the other. And in these
Right.
memories, keep in mind, it's the same thing simulation, except they instantly take away your autonomy and they give you a scenario that is fully spoken for and you're experiencing it. So
Hmm.
autonomy is fully flexible as hell. But you never have full autonomy ever. They're always guiding you and controlling you and pushing you around. So
Nudging you.
yeah, exactly. So another more obviously demonic tactic here that is kind of on the nose is where Bob is talking to his godhead again, and they have like one of the 1,000 hymns rotating out to be the spokesperson kind of guy, right? And they rotate from one to the next. And this one character they call Ashanine, which is Bob's like ex past life monk version who's really spiritually advanced and cool. This character goes and asks him if he wants any more psychic abilities they can give him. And he's like, nah, I'm kind of good with the astral stuff's pretty all encompassing. I'm good, which is I respect. He didn't want to get all the power, and I was like, that's a good move. But they offered it to him, and then the next thing they see immediately after they're turned down, which they are outside of time and can know what he's going to say in advance, but they seem to ask him anyway. They said, "We did not believe those were needed. Why did you ask?" Okay. Yeah, we did not believe those were needed. But if you do want one of us to use your body and talk while you go somewhere else, just relax and go to sleep. And then he says, "No, I don't want to be a channel. That's not a route to freedom as I see it." So he just denied them the ultimate possession consent form.
Right,
So he's
right.
not fully possessed, but he's demonized and influenced heavily by these entities. But they never got, or maybe they did later, but they never got up till here a full pass to possess. And if you read books like Hostage to the Devil by Malachi Martin, one of the greatest books ever, you will see that full possession takes years and a direct acknowledgement at the end of it to get fully possessed. Demonized and controlled a lot, not really. It's a fluctuation of things, but in the amount you sin and consents you've given in the past. But to be fully possessed, you got to consent. So if you're not doing a ritual to invite it and admit to that, they have to play these games with you and play these characters and elaborately get permission in other ways. So his godhead, either a demon or his godhead, was just like, "Hey, I want to use your body for no purpose in general. So just go to sleep and
just kick around in there and
yeah, I just want to take a shit. Just let me wipe your butt. I just
take
want
a nap."
yeah." And he said no, and he let them down in a very nice, polite way, right? It wasn't
Right.
like, "Hey, what are you doing? Well, this is weird."
It's almost like intuitively knew.
Yeah, no,
It doesn't sound like a good idea.
yeah, and like I said, they can guide his thoughts, but they can't totally make him think every little thing and do every little thing,
Yeah.
unless it's reliving a memory, which is not the same thing. So it's I don't know, dude. It's that's a freaking demon if I ever heard one, and claiming to be his higher self, like they all do.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is the end of the astral lore, and I have a few little bits before the Bible stuff, but I can yeah, we can get through some interesting stuff here. Do you know Vicky Joy Anderson?
Yeah, I've had her on twice, I think.
I love her. She's great.
Yeah, she's great.
She talks, this is her stuff. I'm stealing it. I'm going to add my own flair to it. But she talks about the fabricated room, which is the closest thing to my whole theories that I've ever seen. So they go together. And she talks about sleep paralysis, which she's had hundreds or thousands of encounters, a crazy amount, and demonic harassment. And she's interviewed tons of people with the same encounters to get data.
Yep.
And she talks about in sleep paralysis, she believes after many experiences and paying attention to them, that you're not getting your body frozen, you're getting your astral body frozen in a dream that's created to look like your room. So that, and a lot of people have had this happen to them. I have definitely. It feels real. You feel like you're awake. You feel like, oh, I just can't move my
Right.
body. They're not freezing your physical body. It's frozen because you're asleep. They're freezing your astral body and they let you see. And everything you see is a simulation created to look like your room. Now, she also says these have been seen by her so many times that she's eventually noticed her room will have discrepancies that don't align with the real world, such as a window being a few feet away from where it's supposed to be, or objects in the room that she never owned being there, or vice versa, things missing that are supposed to be there, colors being different, discrepancies that don't align with reality.
Yeah.
Now, she's interviewed other people saying the same thing, proving that this is more than likely happening. So she believes that most, if not all, sleep paralysis, I believe it's probably all of it, is astral, and it's a simulation meant to look like your room. And they use this to manifest shadow people and all these things. Not saying they can't manifest physically, but I don't think they do in this case. I think this is a dream vision situation. And if they can do that then you would go, okay, well, why is the room slightly off sometimes or all the time? Like, is that because they're not that talented and they can't maximize their detail capabilities? Or is it because they have to tell you and leave clues because you're not divinating, you're being, a victim here. It's not like you consented to this process necessarily. So maybe they have to leave clues as a legal loophole to say, oh, they they've allowed some sort of way to figure it out.
Yeah, which would make sense, actually.
It makes sense, but it could be the other where the detail thing. Now, they have perfect detail control in all these other simulations, but we don't really have a frame of reference of comparing these astral realms to real places. So we can't really say for sure as a real place recreating it if they just miss up details. But everything else is perfect. So I like to think it's the second thing because everything else is so perfectly done. But I don't know. So it's one of the two. Now, here's where it gets freaky. There's a few few sleep paralysis encounters I've read that are the same story that I've heard multiple times, at least 4 or 5, maybe more, where people describe seeing gray alien entities in these sleep paralysis encounters, and they will see the gray go basically like, "Oops, oh, you can see me for who I really am. Oh no!" And they press a button on their belt, a technological button, and that belt button transforms them and shapeshifts them into a shadow person instantly, or a hat man, and then they do their freaky manifestation thing. Now, if this is a simulation and this isn't real, now if let's say if it is real, let's say it is real, it's an alien entity. That means shadow people, all of them or most of them, could easily be alien entities who are using a lot of manpower and technology to convince you of a spiritual realm that is covering up demonic interference for sure, if that's what it really is. Now, if it's a simulation, like it probably is, as Vicky Joy would say, this is not a real gray entity. This is a simulation entity, and they're trying to convince you that shadow people are a technological advancement of aliens, and they're harassing you, which would take a ton of work because the amount of sleep paralysis encounters are insane.
Right.
And they want you to go, oh, I messed up. My button malfunctioned. I got to fix it. Like as if they're that stupid and can't maintain the shapeshifting for a second. And you just happen to catch them. Oh, I got you. You're an alien. I knew it. And then they tell people, share the story. Oh my God, shadow people might just be aliens with tech, or even something deeper than that, which is, oh, all of this is just physical, or most of it. It is a crazy, weird false flag plants inside of a vision, which there's patterns of other ones in other areas, which I would talk about in a later part. But this is the elaboracy we have to be aware. This is the deception, man. This is the great deception, not the weak ass unimpressive deception, man. It's layered. It's layered. And the vision control concept is so important for many reasons, but one of which is decoding these like bits of lore everywhere that are trying to disinform you with these crazy happenings. So I find that a funny story. I think that's my add-on to Vicky Joy's thing.
Story. I mean, yeah, because obviously you've got Vicky Joy's theories and her firsthand experiences, right?
Yeah.
And then you have people like Karen Wilkinson who have similarities in things that rhyme, right, with Vicky Joy. Plus, they're friends too, so
I keep up with her less, but I know Vicky Joy's work pretty well.
Yeah, and Karen has like been places in her story. She's been on either underground or crafts or wherever.
Yeah, and there's astral abductions just as much as physical, so it's layered.
Correct. And so it's like it just makes you wonder, like what is freaking going on? Like, I mean, like, and what I kind of go along with the whole the idea of the Great Deception, and really the person that I've heard for me that hits the most and hits right is what L.A. Marzulli goes through.
Yeah, he's great.
You know what I mean? That to me, for me, and I don't think I've ever said that on the air. So there you go, folks. I really concur, and my thought processes are very congruent with LA's whole breakdown.
Him and Jamie Walden are some of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, Jamie too. I've communicated with Jamie, but I haven't gotten him on the show yet.
He probably would come on. He's on a bunch of shows.
No, he already agreed. We just have to. It's scheduling.
Yeah, I get it.
Sometimes
he's a busy man. He's got a lot going on,
especially now since he's been on Tony Merkel's show and a few other shows.
Now he's blowing up right now.
Rightfully
so.
So yeah. So yeah, him and I have very parallel lives to an extent.
Oh,
so
really?
it's kind of a we'll see
Yeah,
whenever
I'm
we
a huge
talk.
fan. The only negative thing I'll say, which is not really to him, but I wanted you to keep it in mind. The only negative thing about his whole lore is that he gets information from insiders and skiffs, and he named some of those sources. I do not trust them, and that is the now. I think he gets real information, but he also gets potentially planted disinformation for him to dispel, as far as like the technological side of certain things, which I think are real. I think we have technology that's going to do crazy things, but I think it might be a
Yeah.
subtle cover up for some spiritual happenings or a mixture of the two, which is a complex conversation to have. But I just throw it out there, throw it out there.
No, I get it. I get it. But I know I am a what people would call me a Fed from way back. Just so
Oh,
you
really?
know.
You know what? I see it now. I get it. I see it. Dang it! I got caught by another one.
Damn it! No. But yeah. So I've lived, I've lived a long and weird freaking life, dude. But at the end of the day, yeah, there's some congruencies there, and I can't wait to talk to him. So
Yeah, I just say it's worth bringing up. Tell him I love him, though. It's nothing, no
yeah,
shade.
I
I
will.
listen to his
And
sermons and everything.
but LA's theories and his stuff that he's laid out is, I'm not saying I'm like an acolyte or anything, but my research all goes to the same spot. So
I'm going to send you one of the craziest things I've ever seen that I found recently. That is maybe one of the best analysis on the great end times deception I've ever seen. And I don't agree with every little detail because it's
right.
pretty fantastical. But I'm just going to send it to you. I'm going to shout it out. The Full Circle hour and a half by Psy Guy, but it's C with the I emoji guy, and I think that's right. And he's a homie on Twitter now, and it's kind of like filling in a lot of gaps where I had gaps because I have a good understanding of end times deception stuff. But it's getting more elaborate as of late, and I'm shouting it out because it's worth checking out. He needs some more attention. I'm gonna
Heck
text
yeah.
it. I'm gonna message it to you though in a minute.
Awesome.
But yeah. So where was I? Yeah, but the analysis out there, there's a lot. I don't think anybody has the full picture, but I think we're getting pretty close. But also, time is pretty short,
Y-
to get the word
Yeah.
out, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
for sure.
Um, I subscribe to a lot of specific crazy beliefs there, but we can touch on that later. So yeah, continuing my presentation, I don't have too much more, but we got I'm gonna credit Sean Tabbitt here. This is his stuff, which is very important. He's the NDE guy, Christian viewpoints, and he has the book The NDE Conspiracy, great book, and he talks about Brian Melvin's story of an NDE where this Brian Melvin character dies and is transported to a realm where it's like he describes it like a childhood home, I believe, something like that, and it's heaven like, and everybody's like, "Oh, we're so happy to see you, we missed you, we love you," and it's very positive. His loved ones that are dead, and he's like, "Oh, this is nice. We're having like a little barbecue or something." I'm paraphrasing, but he's there for a bit, and then his family members start morphing into what he describes as demonic serpent-like creatures, and everything around him starts melting into a hellish type realm, and he's in a
The
different area
heck?
now. And he is resuscitated soon after this, after being messed around with in there, and he comes back realizing he was deceived initially, obviously. And Sean Tabbitt makes the point, hey, if this guy was if so many NDEs are positive in heaven-like realms and maybe not, validating Christian viewpoints, how do we know they're not fake simulations? He doesn't use those words, but how do we know they're not fabricated to be this fake heaven realm? And then they're just getting it before it transmorphs into the negative side. They're being resuscitated before that happens. So how do we know that's not happening a lot of the time? And then people go, how would it benefit the demonic agenda to give them a fake happy realm for a minute? Greatly it would, because if you go and die and you're not saved by Christ, then you come back and you said, "Oh, I guess I didn't need Jesus for all that. I guess that stuff is dumb and gay, so I don't need it." Then boom, that's a huge benefit to anybody who believes it, because then you can go the New Age route very quickly. So
Oh, very quickly.
I find that story
Huh.
incredibly revealing, and I think that that should be a big precursor to any talking about any NDEs. I think God does bring people to real ones with Jesus encounters, yes, but I think they do fake Jesus, fake heavens all the time. And there's examples of this in another conversation.
Yeah,
Uh,
there is plenty of in the I guess you could say the lore, right?
yeah.
of fake Jesus stuff. So
They admit to it in certain pockets that I can talk about later, but, and then
I
the,
mean, I feel like it's one of those things too, is I think people need to understand that these entities follow a set of rules
yeah,
and they're only allowed to do certain things,
yeah.
right?
But people think they're not allowed to impersonate Christ, but that's not true at all.
That's not true at all. And you have to remember the word consent.
Yeah.
And any way that they can get you to consent to this stuff, they're gonna do it. But
Yep. They'll cater to your belief system. So if you're a
I'm
Christian,
telling you that they will make you not even remember the word consent.
I don't doubt it at all.
I got to a point in my life where I couldn't recall the word consent without prodding or looking it up. I'm telling you, it was like that. Like
And
I
they had you
couldn't actually get the words out of my mouth
putting their hands, man.
because yeah, it was, and I got chills just thinking about it. I literally couldn't even get the word consent. Now it's ingrained. Boom. It's all the time. And discernment. That's the other thing.
Keywords for my work too.
Keywords for everybody. If you're a Christian and you don't have that as part of your vocabulary, know what it actually means, you got to figure it out.
You're going to be deceived. That's the bare minimum right there, I think.
Got to figure it out. Because that's your protection. That's the armor of, I mean, well, there's literal armor of God, but that is the armor of God. That's where it all starts. So.
Yeah, it's got to be our individual own seeking and process, and you can't just spoon feed us everything, you know, like the ascended masters like to do, like the spoon feed us any information we want, and because they're so nice.
They're so nice, and they just want us to,
They just
not kill ourselves.
They just want to give a handgun to a baby toddler and see what he does with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna skip to DMT lockout conversation because it's so fun and people will love to hear it. So I talked about this on Twitter back in January on Andrew Gallimore's X page, and he's the top DMT researcher. He's the guy doing people in hour extended states of DMT and getting research and entities through all these mapping the realm. They're trying to map the realm, and he is not responding to my messages, even though I blew up on his page, whatever. And I've tried to reach out to him. And also Danny Goller, the other DMT guy, I'm trying to be friends with them. They're not Christians. Andrew Gallimore is more secular and hates God for sure. And Danny Goller's very new age Gnostic style, demiurge stuff. And so they were talking. I posted about it, a whole explanation of what I think's going on with evidence of my astral lore. In a long segment, and I got a lot of hits on it after it went viral a few weeks ago because DMT Lockout was going viral on X for like 2 days, and I had my post blown up as an explanation for why it's happening, and that was fun because for anybody who doesn't know, DMT Lockout is where you do the drug DMT a bunch of times. It's psychedelic that usually takes you out of body if you take enough of it, and you will meet entities. You'll meet the machine elves. In their land, you'll meet the jester types, the clowns, and they'll make fun of you and play games with you. You'll meet types of aliens, mantids,
like serpent.
Yeah. But you'll meet all sorts of entities, and I think it's all simulation, just like the astral stuff. But they're catering different archetypes and characters to DMT to make you think, oh, this drug is accessing even deeper, crazier realms. And stuff that we can't find in the astral, but this DMT gets you right there. And they're trying to diversify the consciousness exploration, infinite type lore. And so DMT Lockout's where you do it a bunch of times, and eventually, if you do it too much, an entity will say to you, who usually someone you visit often, will say, "Hey, you're coming too much, and you're not coming to learn. You're just coming for fun." And they make you think they're concerned with your education spiritually. That's what they care about. It's not other reasons. But they say that, and they'll say, you know what, you're getting out of here. We're kicking you out. And you're not going to come back because you're getting on our nerves. And they snap their fingers, and boom, they return to their body instantly. The experience is over, and they'll smoke DMT again, a bunch, way more than they ever have, and they will never get out of body back to these realms again. They'll see the visuals like the intro stuff still, but they will not ever get out of body again. Now, Zoltan Bathory, the 5 Finger Death Punch guitarist, I think, one of the members, He went on Danny Jones with Danny Goller, the other DMT guy, the simulation realm guy. Um, and he was telling his story about DMT lockout, where he was doing it a bunch of times and he gets locked out and he's mad about it. He's like, frick, I want to get back there. Why those assholes kick me out? And he ends up meditating for 4 months, he said, on the question, hey, why did I get kicked out? I want to come back. Please, 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 please. I will be a good boy. And he did that. I'm paraphrasing, but he did that for 4 months. And eventually they let him back. And now and he did DMT a bunch in between there, didn't get out of body. And now he gets out of body again and has a continuous rapport with these characters. And they're like, we're all good now. Keep in mind, this guy was begging and he was probably more likely to be an asset because he had, some sort of influence and he's going on podcasts and stuff. So now so people can return because some people say, oh, they're just receptors were burnt out, just like when you do psychedelics too much and they can't get back because they got high too much. I'm like, then why does it end right when an entity snaps its fingers and kicks you out? And why did this guy come back? So,
Yeah.
and that's one example. Most people don't come back. Now, here's my explanation for what's going on. Yeah, it's a
Who was
simulation.
the first guy you were talking about?
Andrew Gallimore. He's the scientific researcher. He lives in Tokyo, I think, and he's doing the extended state DMT sessions, getting data. He's gone on Joe Rogan, so you can trust him.
Right.
Yeah.
You ever talk to Adam Butler?
Who's that? I don't think so.
No, he's a guy. I've had him on my podcast. And he's a DMT. He wrote Butler's DMT Field Guide.
Oh yeah,
I want to check him out. Yeah, just saying.
I've read a few books on DMT. I've read the Rick Strassman stuff and Andrew Gallimore, some of it. But it, I think I have it figured out. But what do I know? I'm just a little boy.
Yeah.
But my whole theory is, the DMT realm is just more simulation, but they're catering different styles and archetypes and themes to DMT to make it seem like it's a different thing, but it's the same. Yeah. And the reason people are getting kicked out is not because they care about your spiritual ascension and learning and you're wasting time. It's because you're wasting their resources and time. Like I said before, they are not infinite in number. They have as much spirits as died in the flood. Yeah. But they have 8 billion people they got to harass and mess with, right? So they got to be smart with their resources. And you're wasting their time because you're doing it way too much. And it's highly detailed control. They need to focus on you. They need to give you their attention. They cannot separate themselves. Yes, they're a hive mind and they can do a lot, but they have limited number of spirits doing this and facilitating. So what
about psilocybin?
I think it's another wing of the same bird, essentially. It's harder to get out of body.
I would agree. I've taken a lot of psilocybin. Never done DMT.
I've done DMT 3 times. Let me tell you though, the first 2 I didn't get out of body. The third time I did. And because I took more that time, and I wasn't sent to meet any entities. I was just tortured in this infinite time realm where time dilated was crazy. And I was just seeing what felt like 4, 5, 6 dimensions of just constant morphing of shapes and colors and industrial sounds that were like grating my ears. And it sounded violent, like machinery going through a distortion filter. In a very, very immersive, schizophrenic, scary way. And it was just, and I felt sick and felt like throwing up, but I was like in an astral scenario and I just felt nauseous and dizzy. And I was just being tortured for like what felt like a long time. Time dilation was crazy. And it felt like hell. I did not have fun. And it was very traumatic. And I still have like little flashbacks to it, like I'm in Nam sometimes. But for the most part, it's faded as a memory. And gotcha. I think they did that to me because I like to think I was very aware of deception from the spirit realm at that time, but I was still doing the shit. And I was still trying to go out of body, even though I was aware of some of the stuff. I didn't know it was all simulation and fake and gay, but I knew there was deceptive forces. And because I knew that, and they can read my mind, I think they were just like, screw this guy. We're not going to waste our time trying to trick him with our love and light stuff because it won't work on me. But they were like,
there's also that surrender aspect with that stuff too.
And I would have been hard to get.
DMT and psilocybin personally.
So I think they just knew I wouldn't fall for it maybe, or probably thought it wasn't worth trying. So they just decided to torture me, which was, fun for them, I'm sure. And so that's what happened to me. And I didn't do it again, obviously. And I haven't done drugs since, except smoking a little tree here and there. My bad, but not the same thing. And I had a fun time with that. And I tell people that they're concerned with their resources, and I feel like I'm missing.
That's a good theory, man.
And it's an asset thing. Are you an asset? Or are you just doing it for fun? Yep. They were just going out and doing it tons of times just for entertainment, like a roller coaster. But if you're an asset, getting the word out there, you don't hear many assets saying this is happening to them.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard one say it, who are actually like being a proponent for their information. The Danny Goller guy's done it more than almost anybody, and he's never had this problem because he's, guess what, an asset going on podcasts sharing their lore and believing everything
Yeah.
they say. So this is also proof, potentially, that this is not an innate human ability. This is entity facilitated, because if you had the ability and this drug helped you get out of body easier, why is an entity kicking you out, making you not get out of body anymore? Why
Right.
why can't you access it now like you did before if it was always an ability you had? Even Andrew Gallimore says this experience is coming to you from an outside perspective. He doesn't believe in the demons thing, but he'll say this is DMT is coming to you and you're not going to it. I forgot how he frames it in a spiritual sense, but it's something of that nature. And I'm just like, yeah, that's exactly right. So that's my theory.
Yeah. Very cool.
And if you want, we can start pulling this in for a landing after I do the little Bible lore
Yeah,
here.
man.
We got because everything I'm saying here is in line with the Bible. I think it's, the Bible doesn't give you all the details here, and it's not supposed to. God's given this ability to demons, which angels also have. You're about to see for a purpose of testing us, not because he's a bastard. So I'm just going to retell the story in my own little goofy way, and then read some scripture. But we're talking about 1 Kings 22, which is repeated in 2nd Chronicles 18, and it's where King Ahab, the evil pagan king of the Israelites of the northern tribe in a certain time period, he is a problem, and he's trying to convince the southern tribe, which is run by King Jehoshaphat, to join forces with him. Judah tribe, to join forces with him and combine forces to go and attack Ramoth Gilead, which I might be saying wrong, and plunder them and take their stuff and go to war. And Jehoshaphat's like, they're in-laws, I think, because I think their kids are married, and they're hanging out. And he's a man of God, but he's flawed and a little bit probably dumb. And he's like, I don't know, can we maybe ask what the men of the Lord think? The prophets, what do they think? Good idea. Yeah, let's ask the prophets. So Ahab gets 400, literally 400 prophets, quote unquote, and they're pagans. They're doing divination. It's remote viewing. It's not God coming to them. It's them searching information in the etheric realm. And I see them as remote viewers the way things are described.
Right.
They might just be getting downloads of information, but either way, it's pretty similar here. So these 400 prophets are prophesying that they're going to have great success and they're going to kick ass and they're going to do great and not have any issues. And they're all saying the same exact thing. They're getting visions, it seems. It doesn't say that directly, but it implies they're getting visions and seeing it in their mind's eye that they have success. So all 400 are getting that. And then Josaphat's like getting an uneasy feeling. He's like, I don't know. Like, are these truly men of God, Yahweh? Like, obviously they're not, but they seem to be so impressive. So he's like, I don't know. And he asked for one true man of God for sure, who's confirmed. And Ahab's like, fine, whatever. Yeah, we'll go get Micaiah, who is a real cool guy. And they go get a messenger to fetch him. And the messenger tells Micaiah, hey, don't deter from the story here. We're sticking to it. Say what he wants to say. And Micaiah's like, no, I'm going to say what God tells me to say. And, amen. I love it. So he shows up, and initially Ahab asks him to prophesy, and he says what he wants him to hear. He just kind of sarcastically is roasting him. And he's like, oh, you're going to do great, and you're going to be all powerful here. And he's making fun of him. And then Ahab, is like, hey, shut up, MFer. No, tell me the truth. And this is where God comes in and gives him a instant vision. He's getting a vision right there. And he sees in the spirit God with his heavenly council discussing what to do about Ahab, because Ahab is beginning to be a problem. And they're worried he's going to get too many of them killed and off the wrong path. So they want to intervene, but not too directly. So they're going to play into his consent that he's given with it, which is getting these prophets. So and God knows what to do. He's letting his creation play out and be involved. And that's what I respect that.
Yeah.
He doesn't need their help, but he asked for it. And one angel or maybe an angel or some sort of entity in the heavenly council, I don't know if it said angel, but it's one of his homies, or it could be on the darker side. It's hard to say because there's potentially some of that happening. And says, hey, what if I go down to being a lying spirit in the mouths of all those prophets? Uses the word lying spirits in the mouths, saying, and hijacking their psychic information, basically. So he goes, and then God says, oh, you will be successful. Go do it. And we'll get into the implications in a minute, but what happens is he tells Ahab this whole story, giving him the truth, and Ahab denies it and says, "No, you're full of crap, and I'm gonna do what I want to do." And then he sends Micaiah to the prison and slaps him in the face. And then Micaiah's like, "Hey, if you go to war, you're gonna die." And that's prophesied from God. And he's like, "Nah, dog, I got this." So he goes to prison, sad. And then Ahab goes to war and convinces Jehoshaphat to go along with it. And Ahab gets struck by a stray arrow, not even aimed at him, just a random stray arrow that was flying in the sky. And he gets struck and dies hours later from it, which is prophecy fulfilled. And Jehoshaphat was almost killed by people coming up on him, but he gets on his knees and prays to God and repents and is saved. Now, hearing the story, people would go, "Oh, so God deceived him with an angel and is deceitful? That's not his brand, right?" And we're like, "No, dude. He was deceived by the prophets that were doing divination, which was a sin, and they consented to being deceived. And then he even gives him the truth before anything even goes down, giving an opportunity to repent and do the right thing. And he chose to go with his own heart's desires and his own desires and listen to what he wanted to believe, which was obviously a mistake that he intuitively knew was wrong. So God did the most fair thing possible here and also built a story around it that gives us an insight. And I've heard people talk about this story a little bit, but rarely. And when it is, they never talk about what are the implications here about angels being able to control psychic information of ours so perfectly that 400 don't notice that they're being jacked into, if not the entire thing. So 400 people had the same exact vision and information download via one trickster source here. Now, if angels can do this, which is admitted, demons can obviously do the same, and they have not lost this power because it's obviously how they're carrying out this whole, reincarnation framework, memory-based situation, plus the astral lore and everything in between. If they can do this, admittedly in the Bible, everything I'm saying here makes total sense. I like to think it doesn't disagree with it whatsoever, and it's got biblical backing. So that's the most direct example, and there are a few scriptures I can read in a minute, but I don't know if you have any thoughts so far on all that.
Yeah. So the question I've got actually just hit me. What do you think a demon is the Enoch explanation?
I'm gonna say yes. Now, I have complicated thoughts on Enoch because I don't think, there's people go, "Oh, it's Enoch 1 and then Enoch 2 and 3 are sketchy sources, whatever." But no, Enoch
Right.
1 itself is split up into multiple parts, like chapters 1 through 36 is
Right.
the whole Watcher
Correct.
story. And I'm pretty confident it's been said that those are different sources behind that, and then the later work of Enoch 1, which has more diversified lore, which I don't necessarily think is totally a lie, but I see deception potentially in it or incorrect information. And that could be part of a campaign to delegitimize the rest of it, adding it, mixing it in, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do
The
believe in
reason
the flood watcher Nephilim. Yes, I do believe in all that. Because
the reason
Genesis 6:4.
the reason I was asking though is because angels are in essence obviously pretty powerful. Like
Yeah.
especially being able to do that. I'm just wondering if the demons are the disembodied spirits of Nephilim,
They're lower than the fallen, yeah.
they're lower than the fallen, but the fallen are angels. So
These are
right?
still spirits,
So
keep in mind, and full spirit
but
form.
but you know what I'm saying? So
I do.
So they're gonna have the power to do like essentially what angels do. Just in a negative or a more malevolent
Yeah.
attitude, right? But I was wondering if it was actual demons being able to manipulate that way, or if it's
I think it's a numbers game here, and if this is all happening at the mass scale, like I'm saying, and all these discussions, it can't be fallen unless there's hundreds of millions of fallen.
Right, and that's where I was going with this resource theory that you've got is that certain because of the resource distribution.
There's 8 billion of us, and estimates that there's estimates that I think are pretty legit, that there was between 1 and 3 billion people on the earth before the flood. And the way they get to that math is convoluted. I'm not going to get into now. And if there was that many people and a lot of them were Nephilim, there could be 500 million to 2 billion Nephilim spirits roaming around, and there's 8 billion of us. So they have to be moving around. They can't That's why I
Right.
also say, I like to say there's 500 million of them just because they like to say the elites will talk about depopulating us 90% to 500 million. And that's a safe number they feel good about. I think that's because that way everyone can possess one person and there's no extra people.
Right. Got you.
So I
Okay.
lean towards like there's like 500 million of them because of
Right.
that reason, which makes sense in the math of it. If you get into the lore, it's
I
crazy.
was just
Pretty crazy.
wondering about like then on top of that you have like principalities, powers, just
Yeah, and
the
they could
fallen,
probably do
and
more,
we
but
don't really know how many fallen technically. I mean, yeah, there were allegedly 200
I
watchers,
don't
right?
know how I
But
feel about that number, and that might be
yeah, and
yeah,
that's what I'm wondering too. Is I was just wondering. This is me thinking out loud.
yeah.
You've got the 200 watchers, let's just say, right, who are ultimately very powerful beings, but they're all imprisoned, right?
Yeah,
So,
they're
but the
outside of God's
incursion,
control.
what about the other incursion of fallen? I don't mean the incursion, but the actual fallen, like the ones before the watchers, or at some time since the watchers.
I
You
know
know
there's
what
a
I mean?
couple different incursions here of rebellion, but I'm not the old earther type who pushes the whole, oh, this has been happening in cycles forever and ever and ever.
Right, right.
I'm a young
I'm
earther, and the science defends it. I think if you get into hydroplate theory and a lot of other examples, but and I think everything's spoken for beginning and end of time. And I don't believe in the people push the whole pole flip thing and restarting civilizations, which would mean okay, well if this happened after Adam and Eve in the flood of the recent 4,000 years ago, then how many times has this happened with demons before that, fallen angels before that? And
right.
I don't believe that's a thing. Now, there might have been some sort of rebellion before the flood situation or the pre-flood, post-Adam uh,
Yep.
incursion. I have complicated thoughts on it, but because I know there's multiple examples in the Bible, and it's kind of loosely explained of like when and where this is,
Yeah.
and not really detailed. So I don't want to say for sure. I just don't believe in the old Earth style stuff, which I think is
Okay.
important to know.
Gotcha.
And I think that's disinformation for sure. And all the magnetic anomalies that seem to represent a cyclical cycle of every 6,000 years is totally explainable by hydroplate theory, which is just the catastrophic flood event broken down in a very literal way, aligning with the Bible and showing how much catastrophicism explains all of the weird Earth anomalies way better than anything else has. So look at Brian Nichols' 2.5 hour video if you want to get that, because it is a
Yeah.
banger. That's what I believe. But I don't have a perfect answer for you there.
No, I was just seeing where you were at there because
It's
I've
convoluted. I have to do more research there, but I'm
yeah,
digging
same. I obviously have some preliminary theories, but they don't really mean anything.
No, I know.
So
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out after this life,
at some point, right?
probably.
Proceed, sir. Thank you.
Well, I'm coming up on the end. I just want to read a few more verses that I think
Yeah.
add to the theory a little bit of the Bible telling you this. And I never hear people dissect it in this way, in a very literal way. But I'm going to go to a couple of them, starting with Deuteronomy 13:1-3, which is a famous one. And it says, if there arises among you a prophet or dreamer of dreams, and he gives you a sign a sign or a wonder, and the sign or wonder comes to pass of which he spoke to you, saying, "Let us go after other gods which you have not known, and let us serve them," you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul. So he's telling you you're going to be tested. I'm sending this. Ultimately, I'm in control of everything at a bigger scale, letting my creation play itself out in a free will universe, of course. But he ultimately knows what's going to happen, and he's okay with it because we need to be tested. We don't. This life isn't supposed to be, rainbows and unicorns and ice cream, dude. It's supposed to be, we're kicking ass for the Lord and bringing about the kingdom. And this is about the Lord ultimately. And we can have our own lives and have our own fun, yeah. But we are not like supposed to go after other gods, and that's what these aliens are, and that's what these pagan spirits have always been. And it's not truth, none of it's true, or it's half truths. And I just think it's funny that he tells you directly, I'm going to be testing you, and you need to know where deception lies. And then in other verses like Jeremiah 14:14, uh it says, "And the Lord said to me, the prophets prophesy lies in my name. I have not sent them. They prophesy a false vision, divination, a worthless thing, and the deceit of their heart." So this says a false vision, which is a light way to put it, but it's being very literal here because, okay, what does a false vision mean? From a spirit that's not of you, Lord. Okay, well then that means, are they giving you a literal vision? It seems to be explained in everything else I'm talking about here. And false, just means not true, a lie, which it also is. And then divination, which is the whole practice of this in general. And then he says the deceit of their heart, which is great because a lot of these deceits play into our own desires. And ultimately is our desire for power, to be like God, or all these things, serpent in the garden type stuff. But it's like they cater what they do to what you desire. For example, past life memories. People, I can't say this is a fact, but I like to believe, and it makes sense that they cater your specific past life memories to what you desire in this life. So if you desire, uh, you know, really hot chick with, really busty girl, and you live a past life memory and you had a hot wife that is exactly your dream girl, and you're like, dang, I want to relive that life. I want to access more past life memories because this life sucks. Like, I think that they cater what you're most likely to accept and believe because they're catering to your heart's desires, which is another layer of this, because they can read your mind and thoughts. Why would they make something up that's not relevant to you? They're going to make up something that is going to be more desirable to you. So I think all past life memories have some sort of layer of that, which is why they all eat it up like candy, like instantly. So that's an interesting note, I think. Do you have
Yeah.
anything?
So do you think that they can read everyone's mind and everyone's mind and thoughts?
I quickly said it earlier. I'm going to say yes, but there is a part of me that thinks there's easily potentially a chance that people protected by the Holy Spirit who are good Christians living a good life, I believe they have protection from influence, obviously, and possession and demonization to a degree. We can still be demonized as Christians, but we
Yeah.
can't be possessed. But if we are truly having the Holy Spirit indwell within us, but can they access our memories? I'm going to say my opinion is that very possible they cannot, if we're being really, really goody two shoes. But if we are sinning a lot, even as Christians, when
Right.
we slip up, boom, that slip up opened the door enough for them to get their foot in. And maybe they get
Yeah,
limited
it's
access.
kind of like, again, the discernment and
Yeah.
consent. If
Yeah.
there's doors open, then
So I like to think anybody can be if the doors are open. And if you close those doors and you're living a good life, then you're fine. But I think in pockets of your life, you open up, they can access all your past memories too. So I think everybody's had their memories access. Absolutely. Everybody's messed
yeah,
up pretty heavy.
yeah.
But I think there's something about living holy that will probably give you aided protection in that area. But either way, doesn't matter. They can access most people for sure because most people don't have this. So that's enough data to do a lot of these false prophesying things and give you
Absolutely.
false visions and cater to your. And if you're going to access a past life memory, you're already open. There's no way they're not able to peek inside your brain. So because you're desiring that, you're consenting to that.
Yeah. The reason I ask, and I'll tell you why.
It's a great question.
The reason I ask is because many times I will go to pray, and I do most of my praying out loud.
Nice.
Right. But I will pray. I will be, and I'll say, of lack of a better, I will be compelled at certain points to not pray certain things out loud.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I've always wondered why that is. This has been about the last year.
That's interesting, because that's kind of like saying, oh, well, if they could read my mind, then it doesn't really matter, but they must not be able to.
But if they can, why would it matter if I said this out loud or not?
That's a really good point. I like that.
So, and you'll hear other people say that
I've never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I've heard this happen to others as well.
That's the only explanation that I feel like. I don't know.
It's been about the last year. So that's why I was wondering, like, I literally feel like they can't hear my internal thoughts.
I love that. I'm going to use this because this is a really good data point that and you said that you've heard other people say that. I'm sure they have. I've never heard that, but maybe I have in passing, but that is a very good point and enough to convince me that it's possible, because I already believed it makes sense to me. You get less influence, you get less reading of your thoughts, I imagine. And
yeah, I mean, because because unless you say it out loud, they can't hear you. Not
because they can be around you, but can they be in your head? That requires.
Well, they are always around you. I'm a firm believer in that, or something is
for the most part. Yeah. But it's still resource allocation is real. They're not always around everybody at all times.
Right.
Is what I
think there's a lot of this through electronics nowadays too.
Well, they can see anything our electronics see. So all that data harvesting is part of their
have you ever read the book American Gods?
I have it sitting over there. I haven't read it now.
You should, dude.
I've
It's so good. And
I've
if you haven't watched the show, you should watch that. That just kind of, it gives you a reference of like technology and how
yeah.
freaking evil it can be.
Yeah.
Or it's not that it's evil. It's not
Well,
evil
it's
itself.
neutral. We're
It
utilizing it.
is it's the way that it's used
Yeah.
and how you just open yourself to it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
again, that's discernment, deception. You know, so
Dude, it's
I just
crazy.
wanted,
That's a great point. I'm gonna steal that for later because that makes me feel
yeah,
more confident about
do
my
it.
theories. 'Cause that explains why they don't, always figure out all of our plans, whenever you got Christians come
Yeah,
together
because
for
there's
stuff.
plenty of shit that I do nowadays where I literally feel like they're taken by surprise.
Yeah.
And
That makes
it's
sense.
to my and I'm a military guy, man. I literally have a degree in asymmetrical warfare, right?
Nice.
And I use that on a mental level too to fuck with these fuckers. So I'll
You would
just
love
say
my
it.
book.
I'm gonna read it. No, I already ordered it.
Oh,
Well,
heck yeah. Thanks, brother.
wait, I have it in my thing, but
I would have sent you one, but
I want
give
to
me
buy
money
it
up.
from I want to buy it from you.
I'll
I'll
get
buy it from
$7.
you.
That would be great.
Buy it from you, and I want you to sign it.
Oh, yeah. Buy it on PayHip. That'd be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely, bro.
We'll talk about that. But
Heck
anyway.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I covered most. There's some more verses with the whole false vision, false divination words used, and it's used a couple times, man. Ezekiel 13:6-7, Jeremiah 30:23-32. There's other places, I believe, but yeah, there's a couple, mostly in Jeremiah. But dude, it's in the Bible, and I never hear this talked about of the literal vision creation. I hear people talk about past life memories, and I've heard maybe a pastor once say like, "Oh, past life memories are demonic false visions," and I was like, "Heck yeah, that's great." But I never heard of them break it down how or why we know this or how we can assume it. And that's why my book is important, because it's the only book that I've seen that breaks this down and how it's happening, why it's happening, the war gaming of it reverse engineered, and how it plays into reincarnation memories, and this holistic healing fabrications and their operations, and all the evidence of this existing, which they can't coexist as literal things, not deceptions. It proves that, the Christian movement is the right one, more than a lot of arguments I've seen, but I'm biased to my own work, of course. But I just find it important. I'm trying to get the word out. So I
Yeah,
appreciate you letting me go on a rant for a while here about it. It's pretty fun.
absolutely. And we'll do it 2 other times at least.
Yeah, I got plenty, and I'm trying to build a fourth.
It's one of those things I like to have people on that continue to research.
If the fans want me back, if they desire,
oh, they will. Well, it's more like me since I'm Jew. So
perfect. Well, I'll try to be nice to you and get you on my good side.
Yeah, man, this has been awesome.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing to do ever, is go crazy and rant about this stuff, because no one else in my real life will let me do it.
No, I know, man.
It's
know. Crazy. It's like I love. Do you know who Magic Mark is, or Mark? My family thinks I'm crazy podcast.
Yeah, I have him in my email chain. I'm gonna send an email to him soon to get on a show. He went on Netflix Death Squad, and that's how I found out about him.
Yeah, I just love that name. I think
yeah,
that name
no, it's very on the nose.
It totally makes me. They humor me at least. I have, I've got a bunch of kids and my wife, and then all the extended family, and they just think I'm fucking crazy.
Well, they're going to be knocking on your door begging for canned food pretty soon here.
I'm just saying. So, I do all that stuff. I even wrote a book. Of course, my
Too bad nobody reads.
One of my daughters, or it's my daughter's boyfriend, is actually upstairs reading it right now. It's called, oh my gosh, I can't even remember the name of my own book.
That's insane.
What We Have is what it's called.
Nice.
And it's a survival. It's a apocalyptic story, but not in a zombie apocalypse. It's literally the grid goes out.
So it's a fiction.
Yeah, it's a fiction book.
Okay, gotcha.
But the grid goes down, and then it's because I love teaching this stuff like survival, like, hey guys, the shit's going down. It's gonna have some form or fashion. So this is just my way of kind of planting seeds, hence
Oh,
the
yeah.
name of my podcast, Broadcasting Seeds.
I didn't remember to send you
But
something before I forget. Keep going.
but what we have also is it's a survival book. At the end of every chapter, we talk about how do you live through and do things after what you just read in that chapter.
Nice.
So, yeah,
Well, that, so it's educational at the same time. That's good.
Right. I just try and get those little words out there, man. So it's wild. But if you would like, tell everyone again the best place to find you.
Yes. If you want to even reach me directly, Sethlehem, that's my display name. My username is at Seth Kicklighter, first and last name. And my link tree is in that bio, linktree/Sethlehem. That has everything you'll need. My book links to Amazon and PayHip, buy directly. And my audiobook, which is all free, Spotify, YouTube, all free, 34 hours. I'm sorry. The book has tiny font as well, so it's hard to read for some people if you're old and it got old eyes. And then all my podcasts are linked there that I've been on, all the ones that have been uploaded. And my favorite content, if you want to see what I'm really into, or my favorite music, if you want to see what I listen to, which is crazy jazz, fusion, R&B, and all types of stuff. So yeah, that's all on there. And reach me if you want to email me at Sethlehem@spiritrealmshenanigans.com. Got to get that branding locked in. I answer any and all questions if I have the time. I try.
Do your best.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah, man. It's been a pleasure, dude.
Yeah, I'm having fun time.
We will schedule the next one.
Yeah,
All
keep
right.
me in touch whenever we can space it out. I'm down whenever though. I got a new mic. I can sound more professional very soon here.
Awesome. I'm excited for you.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. This was fun, man.
Yeah, it was. And we'll talk to you soon, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, bro.
Sleeping under silver beams. Voices said, come higher, child, come see. But something in the room was watching me. They had velvet tongues and golden eyes, selling heaven with a borrowed light. Said, you are God, you are flame, you are free. But every open door took more of me. And it felt like love, but it moved like control. It knew my name. Don't call it holy, just because it shines. I heard the serpent singing through a choir of light. False like velvet, pulling on the thread. Whisper like an angel, but it smelled like death. I don't need your kingdom, I don't need your sight. I found my shelter in the blood and the light. They built a world inside a world for me. A painted sky, a simulated sea. They fed me memories that weren't mine, then called it truth from beyond all time. Every guide wore a friendly face. Every doorway came with a hidden chain. They said just trust what your spirit knows. But demons love to dress in borrowed robes. And it felt like peace, but it moved like a snare. It touched my mind like it had been there. False like velvet wrapped around my mind. Sweet smoke rising from the other side. Don't call it holy just because it shines. I heard the serpent singing through a choir of lies. False like velvet, pulling on the thread. Whisper like an angel, but it smelled like death. I don't need your kingdom, I don't need your sight. Shelter in the blood and the light. Ooh. No. No more silver cord. No more more hidden gate, no more spirit guide with a borrowed name, no more cosmic throne, no more secret key, no more ancient life calling out